They've played 8 stage games against each other, and the record stands at 4-4. So I think we're up for a very close competitive series.
Yep, so it has been very close between these two teams, and these two teams have quite a bit of history, as they were talking about on the lounge. You know, Sentinels obviously coming into the league and taking the entire bot side from DSG after DSG did have a bit of a resurgence at the end of last year. But this team has bounced back quite well, and DSG, especially early on in lock-in, was a big part of the reason things felt so unpredictable, because DSG and FlyQuest were doing so much better than expected. TL and LYON were struggling at the start of lock-in. Though they did kind of fall off a little bit towards the end, I'm excited to see how DSG actually looks coming into this longer split.
And already Sentinels able to lock down the Karma. It's a champion that is very frequently banned, or you attempt to unpair the Karma from the Ezreal, but it does seem like Sentinels will be able to get both. Good chance they match it with Ashe Seraphine, but we'll see if DSG's cooking anything interesting here. They wouldn't have to pick both of them right away, so they can get a power pick in the mid lane if they lock in Orianna as well. Yep,
definitely can go Orianna. Pantheon up and available and is going to be grabbed, which with the Orianna not getting locked, I mean, obviously could still go with that. It is definitely like the highest prio mid laner on the patch right now, is still banned a lot globally. And we could see more of a throwback to what had been so popular in LCS in lock-in, which would be the Taliyah Pantheon. That had been incredibly popular. But right now, Taliyah, you know, definitely is kind of looked at as a tier below the very top mid laners.
It's really interesting. Taliyah lost a little bit of damage on Q and seemingly fell off the face of the earth. But I really want to see the direction that DSG go here by just locking in the Nami. So they'll probably just go Corki Nami here and drop mid. But at the same time, this does allow Sentinels, if they just wanted to go something really basic like Ezreal Orianna, that would be a very good core of just raw power picks for Sentinels.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it gives DSG the opportunity then to potentially, you know, ban out some of these junglers in the second phase if you do actually go for the Orianna here to try to limit that. But I think it makes a lot of sense. It gives you a really well-rounded composition for Sentinels. Of course, if you go Orianna here, you are going to be pretty low on engage, but there's so many champions left early on in Fearless that it's not like it's going to be a problem to grab some engage from jungle or from top lane, despite the fact that there's still some bans remaining.
Yeah, especially with Darkwings being a control mage player, I feel like it's very smart to lock that in right now. And with the Corki being locked in, now Sentinels, what's interesting about this is with the Pantheon for DSG being so early, they're way into this composition that's going to be outranging them, and if they have first setup is going to be too strong to play against, they need to have a way of engaging or flanking. So I would expect Calmy to go with a little bit more of an assassin pick, would be my guess of the direction this composition should go.
Yeah, I mean, both sides, you're going to be banning out, you know, aggressive mid lane picks here on the side of Sentinels. They're already banning the Akali, and then on the other side, you're banning what you believe to be the top physical damage junglers. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wukong getting banned out. I think it's such a strong pairing with Orianna and helps to solve some of the engage issues that they might have. Instead, they're going to ban the Vi, so Wukong still is up and available for Sentinels, and as a result, I kind of feel like DSG didn't really accomplish that much with the jungle bans, because if you're just still walking out of here with Wukong Orianna, you're feeling really, really happy.
And this is interesting because I do feel like post first stand, there's a little bit of a consensus on what the balance is right now, but it does seem like DSG has a bit of a different read by giving over the Karma, matching it with Nami Corki, which is not a pairing that I've seen beat it that often, but if they have confidence with Shijette and Lions to be able to do so, all power to them. But just in terms of raw power picks, if this is a first stand draft, you're really favoring what Sentinels has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does look very, very strong. They're going to be banning out the Jace here as well. And we'll see what the solo laners are going to be here for DSG. Galio would be fun. Obviously, does give you a lot of dive if they wanted to go that route.
No, they lock in the Rise, which isn't a power pick in lane, but can definitely try and split push, and it does have the ability to offer a little bit of flanking, so they're going to need to play side lanes very aggressively. And I love the hover right here. So we had Rob Moore on our pre-show, and he was actually mentioning he really hopes that he can see Hambach play Skarner because he loves watching him play it in scrims. He says, I really love Hambach pulling people. So I think the hover is just for Rob, and they might lock in something else, but the tower's getting pretty low. They lock it.
All right, there you go. They're going to be going with the Skarner here, so that is going to get locked in.
Over the Wukong.
Yeah, it's really interesting to actually see that. You know, Wukong definitely a more common pairing, and there's, you know, relatively low range, you know, things like the Rise, the Pantheon, so you get a little bit more value then than you normally would with the Skarner. Gnar would make a lot of sense, pretty safe here as far as a pick on the top side for impact, and is one of those classics that he can go towards. when you're looking at DSG, they definitely have the ability to play through sides here with the Rise, with the Pantheon ult to try to support that. And it is going to be Aurora for Castle, so going for the counter pick here against Impact in the top lane.
It really appears like Ido and DSG love empowering Castle with counter pick in these drafts. I don't love Aurora with Rise. I think that's a difficult pairing because if Gnar gets to a point where he can build his wit's end, he'll kind of run the game from the side lane. But in the early laning phase, it does allow DSG to get a lead, and they're going to need to snowball.
And the other thing, though, you have to keep in mind is even if you do get towards that wit's end, Pantheon can be joining in the side lane, right? And that is not really going to help you out in that way. So they do have the ability to collapse on these side lanes. Aurora versus Gnar, maybe you can be able to handle that in the 1v1, but what if the Realm Warp comes in? What if the Grand Starfall comes in? And I think that's what DSG is going to be looking to do for Sentinels. It's really up to Impact to survive on that top side. You have Karma Ezreal on the bot side, and you have a really strong 5v5 that is going to be difficult to engage into for DSG.
Currently, I'm a pretty big fan of the Sentinels draft. Their engage is relatively low, having to rely on Orianna, Skarner, and Gnar, all fairly unreliable forms of initiation. But in terms of Sentinels' early laning power, and then also if they're ever first to the zone, their range, the shield, the tankiness, the damage is all really in a good spot for Sentinels.
Absolutely is. Will be difficult for DSG to break in, as you're saying, if Sentinels are to the objective first here. But so much of this game could come down to the lanes. Will this counterpick here of the Aurora on the top side work out for Castle? It's one of those players that really does buy pretty heavily into solo queue data, cares a lot about what the counter matchups, what the data is showing online. These are things that he loves to practice, loves to bring out some of these more unique picks. That's something he did with the Nasus in Split 1 very famously. It's something he was looking to do even last year. While his team was struggling, he was kind of that big bright spot people were talking about.
Absolutely, and doesn't appear to be any shenanigans early game. I'm all tense in the early game after watching Blabber versus Inspired because for some reason Inspired just goes insane with his invades every single early game, but it does appear like we're starting this with some full clears.
Looks like it will be the case, and going to be very interesting to see how this top side goes, but this is the unexpected result for Sentinels in lock-in. So this was 6th, the preseason power ranking. That is the aggregate among everyone on the broadcast. We power ranked them 6th. They actually ended up finishing in 3rd. People will talk about the short schedule with lock-in. People will talk about some of the matchups and this and that, which is true. But at the end of the day, this is a team that did overperform expectation. And it's kind of funny because it feels like, despite that 3rd place finish, immediately everyone went back and was like, yeah, but that's not going to happen again.
It's really crazy. I noted this with Golden Glue teams as well. He had 2 straight years coaching a 100 Thieves team, which at the start of the year, almost everyone ranked in the bottom half to the straight up bottom of the entire LCS. But then back-to-back years took that team to the World Championship. But then every single time he'd come into a new team or a new situation, his expectations don't get to carry over. He always accomplishes his goal, and then it never carries over. So we'll see what happens once again in this spring split with Sentinels.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. Golden Glue, one of the things I will say carries over is kind of his reputation as a coach. People have been giving him a lot of credit. This is the history that you're talking about. Has had a lot of very good results, honestly. Being able to finish 4th, then 3rd, then 2nd, 5th, 3rd, another 3rd place finish here to start off the year with rosters that are not expected to finish highly. And that is often how people will judge, coaching performance is kind of that.
I saw Lin by Impact here.
Yep, Impact is going to be looking for Castle, but he's getting incredibly low. The passive is proc there. The wallop does land. Impact going to have to back it off. Castle gets him low and does have that additional sustain through the passive. So Impact's going to be sent back to base. It was a good trade there from Impact, but at the end of the day, Castle has the push, and look at the CS differential. He's up 9 CS, and is going to be able to get a better buy.
Yeah, Castle couldn't get the wave all the way in, actually wasted about 4 seconds here, but I believe this teleport is so slow with it not being empowered yet, he's going to be able to get back to base. Last thing I'll say on these power rankings, and this can be to Rob Moore specifically, because he was annoyed that I even considered putting them last place. I actually had them higher than all other casters for lock-in. I had an incredibly accurate read on Sentinels.
Where did you put them?
I put them 4th, and they finished 3rd.
Okay.
That's incredibly close. Most people were putting them 6th. I don't remember exactly where I put them. I think I put them...
So you're just making it up.
I think I put them 4th or 5th
Look, I had the most accurate power rankings.
Exactly where
I don't know what my power rankings were, but
I
for sure.
I remember exactly where I put them in lock-in. I believe I put them 4th or 5th.
I remember exactly where I put them. Maybe 4th, maybe 5th.
In lock-in.
You're really convincing me here.
That's what I do.
Castle TV back towards that top side. Hambach was looking for an angle, but of course there was wards in the river. And Impact is just playing this side brush quite effectively. But look at the buy as they come back to lane here. Castle had that extra gold, so was able to get the Dark Seal and boots, where Impact just got the boots and the refillable. So does have a much worse buy at this point.
Move speed really important in that matchup, so both guys prioritizing boots as Darkwings gets a good trade in the mid lane. But I also want to pay a lot of attention to the bot side and see if Rahel and Huhi can get any type of advantage with this Ezreal Karma, because I do feel like the Ezreal Karma really needs to play off of Prio and get consistent push with Ezreal having his passive stacked up, but there's just too much action in the top lane to look away.
Nice sidestep there from Castle. Dodges everything. The wall up and the boulder toss both miss, which means Impact won't get the reset on it either. And down to the bot lane, they are scrapping heavily as well. Huhi getting incredibly low. Has to flash potentially. Does use the heal. It's going to be okay. And Rahel is just rocking through Lions and Sajed. The bubble does land. Sajed is incredibly low. He pops the barrier. He has got a flash out of there as well. All 4 summoners down for Sajed and Lions.
Big confidence there by Rahel, knowing he was going to win the extended trade. Once he get 5 stacks on that Ezreal passive, he just clicked forward. They burned all 4 summoner spells from the bot lane, only spent 2 of their own, and Colby gets a solo kill!
Colby gets a solo kill. The observers can't keep up with the action. There's fighting everywhere right now. DSG, at the end of the day, walk away with the advantage. They grab the first blood for their rise, and Castle is pushing. He's going to go between worlds. Impact, he predicts the flash with the twofold hex there. Castle with the Mad Life Q takes down Impact.
Think about what Castle has done in this laning phase in totality. The first early trade, winning the all-in at level 3. The second one we saw where he's dodging everything from Impact. That all sets up to him hitting level 6 first and then going for the all-in. But now we're going to watch what Call Me pulled off. Just pings level 6, has the Spell Flux sitting on Darkwings, and flashes for the all-in. Darkwings does pull the shield back, but just didn't have the stats. Really nice look there. And now Azael, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, he goes between worlds, and he just basically predicts the flash. Like, he was already throwing the Q, it felt like, to that side. Either that or it was just a really quick reaction, but we're back to live. Huhi low again as well. They have the push, though. Rahel pops barrier. So Jet is very low, but in comes Kryra and Call Me. Trying to catch up here, can't quite get in range as Hambach played bodyguard for long enough to keep him away.
So that is Realm Warp and Pantheon ultimate down for no kill, used to relieve some of the pressure on the bottom lane. So far, solo lanes by DSG, exceptional, but bot lanes are keeping up in gold, but definitely losing the summoner and pressure war. And I think the scaling on the side of Sentinels is slightly better, so a very close and competitive early game.
I just got to draw your eyes, though, to these buys. We talked about how the bad buy was last time. All he got was a null Magic Mantle. He didn't really get anything after that. He's down 20 CS plus the solo kill. And a plate as well for Castle. So Castle is out to 700 gold lead here with the counter pick. And this is one of these matchups where, you talked about it, if you can stabilize, if you get enough levels, get enough stats, you hit a point where Aurora can't one-shot you anymore, and Nar can kind of sustain through the trades. But if you get ahead enough, Aurora becomes so oppressive. And remember, tickets for tomorrow's games and Tailgate are still on sale. Head to Tixter.com/LCS or scan the QR code to buy now, and we will hopefully see you here tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a really sweet tailgate. We did half of our pre-show outside, got a lot of fan questions in. Sentinels gave away a lot of jerseys. They had that jersey trade-in program. Ramor did not give me a jersey because I said I considered putting his team 8th, even though I did not put them 8th. I put them 5th.
Didn't like the consideration. I got some free boba. It was delicious.
It's like a thought crime. Like, I thought we were over that. It's not
what's that movie? There was like that idea, like there's the thought police.
1984.
Basically. Oh, okay. Yeah. Kryra here getting chased down, has his flash. Might have to actually use it, trying to run down towards that bot side. Get a flash of the wall. Hambach flashes to follow. Is going to be able to knock him down. Call Me on the way. The bubble does land across Huhi, who is put very, very low. Huhi has his flash. Won't have to use it, though, as Call Me will be sent retreating. Hambach looking once more. Still does have the ultimate. Can't quite get in range to find it, but Darkwings making the roam, has the shockwave available, and there's no flash on to Call Me. He's going to try to run for it, but can he get back to the tower to survive? One more auto, but the level up saves Call Me, and now the tower shots are going to push Darkwings back. Call Me gets the level up off of the minion dying to the tower there, and it saves him.
Calculated, surely. Call Me never misses those. And now Kryra's back on the map, trying to get the move speed and maybe kill Darkwings.
They're looking. Huhi, though, is going to be here, and Hambach's coming in. Going to look for Call Me, takes him down. A second kill there for Hambach, who opens up a big lead on the top side.
Wow.
It's another solo for Castle, who goes between worlds and knocks down Impact.
So many individual outplays, leaving this game incredibly close. So Castle, we're going to have to see how he does that again to Impact. But down in the jungle, Hambach just pushing around Kryra. And I believe like Kryra really baited Call Me in for that one because he was out. He'd made the miraculous escape with the level up, and they go back in. And this is Impact being equal in levels, but really just jumping in before he's going to have Mega. And Castle pretty routinely just combos him to death.
Yeah, Impact went in too early there for sure. Clearly just miscalculated. Thought he had the ability to get into Mega.
This is crazy. He procs his phase rush. Darkwing's a little low on mana. Don't even know if he had the W
Look at the level
cooldown.
up.
One auto. The flash auto would have killed if he didn't get the
100%.
level up.
Yep.
Then he takes a church shot, and you think Call Me's just fine, but then they get baited with the re-engage once Kryra tries to chase him down. This bottom lane, though, still going in the side of Rahel, so this is a tough game to keep up with.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's some very one-sided lanes, you know, going in different directions as Call Me going to get caught by the shockwave there. Hambach moving over, but Call Me is playing very confidently. Is the Grand Starfall going to be coming in here? Remember, Hambach has no flash, but does have the Ishtal's impact and could just drive on through the wall and get out of there. That is another Pantheon ult down for nothing.
Yeah, and it's also Heartsteel Power Spike for Hambach. And Impact is just getting wrecked, but they're still trying to get this flashless Ori.
Yeah, we'll see if they can actually get in range. Kryra does no flash, so can't actually close the gap. Impact likely to have to go back to base, though, as Castle will have Between Worlds soon. Hambach continuing this play, just harassing down on that bot side. Sajed can't even get back to the towers. Huhi is just pushing him off of it. Rahel picking up more and more plates. He's nearly up 20 CS himself now on the bot side.
Yeah, the Ezreal is going to become a problem for DSG to deal with, and Hambach sticking around a little bit extra just to get more vision coverage in this bottom side so Rahel and Huhi can continue to play aggressively. One thing I noticed during my scouting of this split was that Sajed and Lions have pretty poor early laning stats, and that's continuing here in part because they didn't draft themselves a strong bottom lane, but now they're getting punished for it.
Yeah, they are, and now the TP is going to have to be used
Aurora.
by Castle, so that's going to relieve a lot of pressure. Sentinels will just back off.
Whoa.
This was the early Proto Belt finish, and now Impact's going to be able to push in the top wave, so that relieves the pressure on the top side. That's going to be a wave missed here by Castle up there, so Castle, their strongest member, uses the TP, gets nothing for it, and they're going to lose their dragon anyway.
Yeah, I think I understand the idea of this play. There's been a fair amount of early swapping in NACL where players have been switching lanes before RollQuest and getting some big momentum plays off of it from the tempo trade, but this is kind of negative tempo because he didn't get anything out with the teleport. He didn't even greatly delay the resets of Sentinels. Sentinels can kind of take the Drake on the way out.
Yep.
And not to mention, Impact gets a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, clearing a free wave, getting a plate, and reducing that gold disadvantage he had up top.
Exactly. I mean, Impact had a horrendous buy. I mean, now he finishes the Merc Treads at the very least, but he was just on random components and a phage to a fully completed item, right?
You got to trap that lane as long as possible.
Exactly. Castle would have been able to keep him from crashing that pretty easily, or at least threaten a kill if Impact tried to do so. So that is a big deal. The fact that he had to use that teleport to try to prevent the dive from coming through because Lions was so low. You obviously need to keep your Corki in it, and Castle felt like that was worth the sacrifice for himself to try to keep Sajed relevant. And Sajed has been a very good team fighter. That has been where he has had his success. It's been much more about the 5v5 than it has really about those 2v2s.
Yeah, and with the MasterCard Power Spike, Sundered Sky, Kryra wants to make a play immediately, trying to capitalize on Impact now that they've swapped back up. But I promise this is a compliment. If you were to pick a top laner to be down 1,500 gold in the game, you'd want it to be Impact because he's very good at being crafty from deficits to stay in the game and become relevant later in the game.
And because when he's down 1,500, he's probably not going to go down 3,000. And some others will, right?
Usually not.
Exactly. It's one of those things where he's able to stabilize on a lot of these matchups. And now Castle's in a matchup against Orianna where he's kind of just getting zoned out by the ball. Darkwings is quite strong at this point. He has his Ludens completed, and you can see now Castle is looking for another reset. So at a strong point in the game, but not in a good matchup, and will have to head back to base.
And I think despite all the chaos and all of Castle's heroics in the top lane, this is actually a good game state for Sentinels. And I think this is what we saw a lot in Lock-In, was that even if top lane was going one way or the other, most teams were most comfortable playing through bot prio. If you have the bot prio, you can control the bot river, you can start stacking drakes, and it puts you in a good situation in the game. And since it is just the top lane that is behind, jungle, bot support all being ahead for Sentinels, and because they have so much range and so much poke when you're trying to take the space, they're just going to try to go for this Infernal Soul as early as possible and are in a pretty good position to do so.
Yeah, they absolutely are. That being said, you know, Castle, if he can get in on a flank, there's a lot of squishy members over on the Sentinel side. You know, it is not a defensive build here for Darkwings. That is Ludens and Lucidity Boots. Ezreal is squishy. Karma is one of the squishiest champions in the game. So, you know, there is the possibility for him to find a really good flank and just 100-0 someone, but Sentinel's doing a great job so far just playing through this bot side prio. They knock down the first tower of the game there. They're taking away more camps, and Calmy's in trouble as he gets Nard back into the tower there by Impact. Nice sidestep, and in comes the Grand Starfall. Can they turn this around? The stun's going to land onto Impact, but the tower shots are there onto Kryra. Now comes the Realm Warp. They're going in behind him. Lions can tank this up. The minions are coming in, and they are tanking for them, so Impact, I think his time is limited in this one. Darkwings is coming up, and the rest of Sentinels are trying to get there to turn this around, but Impact's got nowhere really to run. He hops back to the Blast Cone, knocked out of the air like Duck Hunt, but Darkwings has arrived, who he's here as well. Can Darkwings find a Shockwave? Lions is low, may have to flash.
He kills him!
Just holds onto the flash and just dies without even the ultimate being used. And now Hui is here behind them. They're going to try to turn it around onto the Karma, but Hambach is coming in as well. Darkwings is there, still has the ultimate up and available. Flashing back, the Shockwave lands on the Calm. He survives for now. Kryra trying to turn around with a double impale across all of DSG. Spells their defeat. Darkwing survives. Sentinels wipes DSG off the map. They are up 2K and claiming yet another objective.
And it actually all started with a 0-3 Gnar because they sent 4 people and spent 30 seconds cleaning up a rather useless kill, and then it gets collapsed upon by Sentinels. Hambach is huge now. 4-0 on this Skarner, and they take even more control of the game.
Yeah, and Kryra just has not been able to find much effect in this game here. You're on this jungler that has a lot of early ganking power, but it's been Hambach who has been able to keep up the farm, has been able to find more impact. Yeah. It is going to be really difficult to deal with now, getting very tanky. And it feels like, to me, everything started going wrong with that TP from Castle down towards bot side, because that was their real point of pressure that they had on the map. Impact was unable to breathe. And DSG on this one felt like they overstayed on the retreat.
They really did, and just way more damage than Lions was expecting with the Orianna, not even having to use ult. I feel like he was saving his ult in case he saw the flash, in case he saw the Orianna ult animation, just never comes up. And then once Huhi's behind them, he just traps Calmy and Kryra under the turret, gets Calmy super low. Hambach perfectly catching both of them, just the very edge of that Skarner ultimate, and a couple of satisfying Heartsteel procs for double kill on Skarner.
And now they are on that dragon here. It's going to be a fight in the mid lane as Sajed is getting pushed back. The True Shot Barrage will not connect. Kryra going in on Hambach, and Calmy is behind him. He's trying to focus down the dragon. Will he be able to secure this? Hambach looks like he's going to be pushed back, but in comes Impact, and Impact has the Mega ready. There's the Impale. Kryra buffers the Aegis Assault pretty nicely. Castle is here as well. They're going to try to take down the Skarner. They do get the kill. It's a reset and a shutdown onto the Skarner, and DSG do claim the dragon. Darkwings arrives, though Sajed does fall, but Rahel is dead as well. Hui, Impact, and Darkwing trying to make it happen. A big combo across multiple DSG members. Castle can do nothing. It is an ace for Sentinels. Even though they lose the dragon, they handily win the fight.
And just like that, Darkwing's Orianna is off to the races. A little bit of a chaotic start to this fight, though. Look up top. Rahel ends up dying fairly early on in this fight. Sajed and Lions kind of just execute him as he's chasing for this fight. And Hambach's bounty gets lost, but within all of this, Impact ends up being a full health Mega Gnar, and Darkwings can clean up when everyone burned the important cooldowns early. Lands a beautiful double shockwave. They have the numbers advantage by the end of the fight, and he cleans up for the ace.
Top grab, holy shit. Legend of Flash.
Top cap?
Top cap.
Impact, he's just back in the game, baby.
He is back, and it's only a 500 gold lead now for Castle. Hasn't really been able to find too much effectiveness as Hanbok will claim that blue buff. Rahel walks away with one for himself as well, and Hanbok now up 2 levels on Kryra. He's about to hit 11, but still falling quite behind as far as the experience does go. Grand Starfall comes out, as does a Realm Warp. They're going to look for Huhi and Rahel, but looking like they're just going to walk out of this one no problem. Kryra's ultimates just have not been effective this game.
They really haven't. He's had a hard time finding important plays to make. Couldn't really capitalize on Castle's individual advantages top lane and was unable to bail out the bot lane from their pressure. Can't say many junglers have been good at punishing Ezreal Karma. That's why it's been a meta-defining combination that often gets banned. DSG thought they'd have a plan for it, have been unable to deal with the constant pressure and poke of the Ezreal Karma as well as the Orianna, but here's the fight.
Yep, Castle goes between worlds, trying to get a big combo down onto Huhi and Darkwing, and they are in a lot of trouble. Darkwing's gonna get hit by a tidal wave, and they just get blown to smithereens. Call me Pops the Ghost, and he is on the chase here for Rahel. Great buffer there on the ultimate by Hanbok, but Rahel is just gonna get chased down and knocked down, and now Hanbok barely gets the safety. Lions can't catch him with the bubble as he burrows through the wall. But it's a big team fight win there for DSG. They are not out of it just yet.
What a massive engage there by Castle and the rest of DSG. If this was 30 seconds later, it would actually slingshot the game exactly back, but Baron hasn't even spawned yet, so it's going to be a lot of bounty gold. But I feel like Sentinels actually kind of gets a little lucky that that terrible fight happened exactly when it did.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's nothing really for them to claim afterwards, as you're saying. You know, if that was after Baron spawn, they get a Baron, it really can change things. But still, a nice team fight win for them on the top side. And Sajed is up 1.4K, despite that laning phase going the way of Rahel and Huhi. It's Sajed who is really set up for success. Impact is actually ahead of Gold, or was briefly there, of Castle just ever so slightly. They're pretty much dead even now at this point. So it's now Sajed who kind of has that burden to be able to perform in the team fights as he picks up a couple big kills after that skirmish.
I mean, definitely a little bit of a caster curse there, talking about how they didn't have an answer to the Ezreal Karma. If the answer is, we're going to just outscale and they succeed, more power to him, because he's going to be a force, especially when that Manamune transfers with basically one more activation. So Sentinels still has to be a little bit careful. They do still have gold leads. They should still be able to set up around Drakes and be fairly effective, but that fight really makes this game more interesting because it was going in Sentinels' favor.
It really was. I mean, it's going to be the mid-jungle for Sentinels to have that big advantage. You know, fully completed Zhonya's, has had the Ludens obviously for a long time and has a large rod on top. So Darkwings is going to be a problem, and Hanbok is ridiculously tanky. 2.5 items here, and is working in towards that Kayn Rooker, very likely as that third item, given that it is double AP solo laners, lots of magic damage from Nami, of course, as well. So Hanbok going to be very difficult to knock through, and he's just invading here, just pushing straight in. All of DSG is around. They're going to TP in. Kryra in so much trouble, though. Flashes back into the brush, but he's got nowhere to go. The Nami tidal wave comes up to buy a little bit of time, but Hanbok still at half health. Kryra down and loses his flash, and this is post 20 minutes. We'll see how much more Sentinels can get.
Okay, Hanbok, I see you. He's just an absolute beast right now, throwing that gold lead around incredibly effectively. I was reading his NA-Men interview, and he was extremely confident going into the split, saying essentially that a lot of the NA junglers play the same, and he feels like he can really take advantage. And then in this situation, when they give over an early Pantheon pick, let him drop in the draft phase, don't even take the Wukong that's available, which would be the standard to take with Orianna, and instead goes for the Skarner, it's working pretty well. I mean, the Skarner plus Enchanters is actually just dominating. The move speed Orianna gave him there made him an absolute force.
Yeah, he is looking very powerful at this point. You can tell why Rob Morris said he liked watching him in scrims on the pick, as Castle going forward, going to go between worlds, trying to get the combo in onto Rahel, who is chunks low, but not low enough to threaten a kill. And meanwhile, Sentinels are just taking the dragon. Call Me is up, pushing towards that top side, as Darkwing's now close to the death cap, very far ahead here. So really, it's just a trade of HP. Rahel loses a little bit of health, but you get nothing elsewhere on the map to trade back for that dragon.
Yeah, game is definitely on the precipice of sliding all the way into Sentinel's favor. That Drake fight where DSG was able to get the one kill onto Hanbok and secure the one Infernal Drake has prevented this soul. And then the fight they pulled off in the mid lane is definitely crucial. Otherwise, this game would be 6,000 or 7,000, and we'd probably just be seeing Sentinels brute force the Baron. But for now, it's still playable on the side of DSG.
Definitely is. Sajed does complete his third item, so getting pretty strong at this point. Elected not to go for the LDR, decided heal cut was a bit more important at this point. But honestly, there's not that much healing, honestly, on the other side. So I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go for the LDR with how tanky Hanbok is, how much HP there is going to be on this Mega Gnar. So a bit of a surprise, but we'll see if that does pay off later on into the game. And Darkwings, as I said, is going to be very close on this death cap. I don't know exactly how much gold he's sitting on, but has had that for quite some time. And Call Me still working towards his actualizer here. So yeah, only about 200 more gold for that death cap.
Yeah, he's sitting on 850 at the moment. He's already close to one-shotting what is not a super mobile team with the Pantheon Rise. And even the Nami, if he's ever in range, can kind of just threaten a one-shot on lines, especially once he gets death cap. So Darkwing's in a very comfortable spot.
I mean, if Hanbok gets any sort of CC down, you know, you hit the Ishtal's impact, you hit a good impale, Shockwave over the top, Ezreal ult over the top. There's so much power there. They just need that initial CC to hit, and Hanbok can kind of just throw himself in with Reckless Abandon because he has the Canic Rooker now completed that he had been working on. So it is really going to be up to Sajed to deal the damage here. So much MR has been purchased by Hanbok and the rest of the team. Yeah,
I mean, the story of this game now is really like, can Sajed carry the team fights? Because that 1.7 thousand gold lead, 3-item Corki, we know how well Corki Nami does scale with the Nami buffs as well as the Imperial Mandate. So that's going to be the story, is can he actually... I mean, there's very little MR on Hanbok as well, so maybe if Sajed gets a little bit of free hitting in, he might be able to shred through the tank.
Yeah, we'll see if he's going to be able to do that. Darkwings now has the death cap, almost level 16, so rank 3 of that Shockwave will be very quickly available, and that is going to be terrifying. Darkwings, even on experience with Call Me, even though Call Me has 10 stacks on the row, and Castle's going to be looking for a pick. A little bit of a chunk onto Hanbok, but basically just breaks the Canic Rooker and shield, and that's all he really was able to accomplish.
Yeah, I really think Sentinels is trying to slow this game down now. They realize it's not going to be a snowball win, and they really want this Infernal Soul. So they don't want anything bad to happen before that. You can see they're deep pushing bottom lane. They're letting top lane get pushed in, and as long as they don't lose anyone in transit moving between waves here, they'll be okay. The one big fight that did happen was in part because DSG found a window to 5v4 while Sentinels was pushed a little bit too deep in mid lane. And speaking of getting caught in transit.
Yeah, Huhi in a lot of trouble here, but the Shockwave going to get thrown down on Call Me. He has to flash back out, and the teleport's coming in here from Impact. Impact does not have the Mega, but he is going to have to flash back immediately as all of DSG is there and waiting. But look at Castle getting caught. He's in the midst of everyone. Throws down between worlds. Can't finish off Huhi. Call Me falls on the other side, and Impact's about to go Mega. Kryber will flash and try to run as Sentinels can just turn for the Baron here. It's a 5v3. It's no flash on Kryra, and I don't know how DSG can defend this.
Call Me thought he was going to be able to make a big play by catching the Karma, but he does not have the damage, and then Hanbok arrived. It appears this is going to be an uncontestable Baron as Sajed is just taking the mid wave.
Yep, not going to be able to do anything about it. No flash, no vision for the jungler. You're going to have to give it up, and now Sentinels very close to taking this first game here. 4,000 gold lead, the Red Bull Baron power play available, and they're still on Soul Point. That Dragon Soul is going to be available here in 50 seconds, and it's going to be tough for DSG to do anything about it.
Yeah, watching this one more time, Call Me did sneak in, but he only takes Huhi to about 30% health before the Shockwave can get over, and then Nard is mini, but he has the Super Shield from the TP, so he's not in a super high risk of dying here. Hanbok catching Castle means the only way out is through a gray screen, and they're able to chase down Call Me as well.
Yeah, I mean, this Celestial Opposition is a lot to burst through for Huhi. It was that damage reduction that was there. That plus Mantra E, he had Mikhail's. So it's not that easy to kill him off, you know, if you haven't actually poked off that Celestial Opposition first. But look at the T-Stal's impact on the Castle. He tries to go in, gets insta-CC'd by Hanbok and bursts down, and Castle had a lot of fun in the first couple of levels, but has not been able to find effectiveness in these skirmishes and on these flanks that he's been looking for.
I'm really becoming a larger Hanbok fan the more I watch this game, because just even hearing some of the things that Huhi was saying about him in interviews during lock-in is the fact that he didn't really scrim for a whole year because he was the 6th man on an LCK roster and wasn't getting practice with either the challenger team or this team.
Kryra gonna try to turn things around, but it's an insta Mikhail's there onto Darkwings. Kryra is burst down for hell, pops the barrier. They're gonna look for Sajed. He's sent Falcon back to the base as Sentinels They do lose one as Rahel did die, but Kryra gets popped.
I mean, it was looking like they might be able to push for a potential end, but Sajed lands a big one kind of through the goalposts of people that could block it to get the kill on Rahel. That slows things down, but it is Infernal Soul to just the one Drake. Baron will likely wear off, but Deathcap completed, Void Staff on the way, and still an absolute behemoth of a Skarner for Hambach.
I mean, Hambach, only the one death, 6-1-5, has kept his farm up very heavily. Almost kept up with the top laners as far as the CS is concerned.
I mean, I'm just loving the trajectory of this player. As we were saying, didn't scrim that much, started pretty weak. The very first series that he had was against DSG. DSG's sub-jungler in Kisno, and didn't look good, and that was a very bad first impression for a lot of people that are seeing him for the first time. But by the end of the split, he was finding much better synergy with the team, who he really likes him. He's teaching him a lot about the game, who he's such a veteran as a support, and they just seem so connected now as a duo.
Yeah, they are looking a lot stronger as Castle's trying to defend this top side tier 2, but Sentinels pushing forward won't be perturbed and are going to be able to knock that down. They're trying to trade for this push on the bot side from Call Me, but it is very hard to trade against the Baron buff here, and they're just marching in now, knocking on the doors of this inhibitor tower. Castle can't really wave clear anything. Sajed is being sent over to mid lane to try to defend there. They're going to lose this top lane inhib for sure. And Sajed taking some poke makes it a little bit more difficult to actually defend even the mid lane inhibitor. Definitely don't want to lose that. So now Ryze is back, and we're going to see if DSG can find their moment. Sajed falcons in, pushes for help back over the wall. So maybe they can try to look for something now, but the front line of Sentinels is just so beefy, they can't really get past them. Yeah, especially if it's Sajed who's pushing out Rahel. That means they have a Pantheon and then two magic damage guys in the Ryze and the Aurora, trying to cut through a 4,856 HP Kanik Rookern 175 MR Skarner who gets Orianna and Karma Shields. Yep. It's just not going to happen. No. You're not moving that guy. I mean, Castle almost, has his death cap, but he's so far away from a Void Staff. Calmy is building a Void Staff, but obviously he's miles away from a death cap. You know, they have a lot of problems here. And Sajed did elect to go for the Serpent's Fang, wants the shield cut, which makes sense. There's a lot of shielding. Yeah. But it does mean his Infinity Edge is going to be super delayed. So DSG, it feels like, are very far away from some of the items that they would like to get to try to turn this around. Hambach going to look for the Ishal's impact. Impact just chasing in onto Sajed. They will be able to disengage and stay safe for now as Calmy was pushing out topside. It's Darkwings pushing down through bot, and the rest of Sentinels here marching on mid. Yeah, they're going to have to be a little bit careful while they only have 4 people in mid lane, because a Realm Warp and Pantheon could come in for a flank, but it would be a bit of a desperation play by DSG, so Sentinels just needs to make sure they stay connected. Yep, Castle going to be looking. Sajed, again, pushing them back. Where he goes is where DSG is strongest. He's still a ways away from level 16. Get that max rank ultimate would be pretty big for the Corki, and Call Me now completes the Void Staff, so that's something going for them, but still just very difficult for their soul laners to get in on the backline. They're going to look now with the Realm Warp. Here comes the Grand Starfall. They're into the backline, but it's insta-CC on a Kryra. Kryra's got to retreat, but the tether root is there from Karma. The GA's popped already. Hambach flashes forward, grabs one. Castle incredibly low. He's running for it. Sajed flashes barriers. It's not enough. Rahel knocks him down. Call Me in the middle of everyone gets one back, but Sentinels wiping DSG off the map. Hambach nearly died, but is able to survive the rest of that fight, and he keeps catching the Aurora with his Skarner ultimate in fight after fight. They're going to look to try and end this game. They have no Ezreal, but they do have a 4v2. Yeah, they have Castle and Lions to defend. That's all they've got. The wallop does not connect. The boulder toss misses as well. Castle, good sidesteps and movements to stay alive for now. Goes across the Veil looking for a chunk, but it's only on impact. He can't even break the shield, and the towers are falling. The super minions are coming in. Castle's trying to run away from Hui, but he's getting focused down. He's going to fall as well. Sentinels play a strong game 1 here in Spring Split. Hambach looking incredible on the Skarner as they knock down DSG. They knocked them down in the lock-in playoffs, and they've knocked them down here in game 1 of this series. Hambach is my player of the game, like the most it was blind pick. Meta champion. It was blind pick, but it's still Ezreal Karma. Everyone prioritizes that. You could pick the best 3 champions of the game, like in that way. You know what I mean? Understood. Like you're basically, if you got to pick any champions that you want, and the other team has nothing to say about it, those would often be them for mid lane and bot lane. It would be. So I'm a little confused at DSG letting that through in game 1, but because it's Fearless, they're gone. Can't happen twice. No salty runbacks here. We're going to see what they do for game 2. Yunar, Rumble,
Jarvan, the bans from Ido, and Golden Glue waiting on his last ban, denying the Ashe Seraphine. So now the bot lane pairs are getting disrupted. So we're not going to see Ashe Seraphine. We're not going to see Unara Lulu as pairs.
Yep. Obviously can still go Lulu with some of the other hyper carries if you want, unless it does get banned out here. But yeah, I mean, 3 of the most popular enchanters are already gone, right? Because Seraphine's banned, and we saw 2 played in game number 1, which are going to remain banned for Fearless. Azir ban is interesting to me. Azir is kind of like more, I feel like, kind of controversial now. You know, at first stand, it obviously wasn't very popular. Some mid laners still just have such a high level of comfort on it that they want to go towards it. But going to be banning both the Azir and the Akali, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. And it will be the Varus first pick here, but Nocturne is up and available, so that is a potential to set up some sort of a dive comp to try to punish this Varus.
Yeah, very potent first pick, because you also do have the potential to flex it top lane if you feel like the matchup is really advantageous.
Yeah.
Usually banned. I feel like it's been banned the whole day, but comes through here for DSG as their first pick.
And especially when it's someone like Castle, you could actually see him playing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, it is a flex pick, but very few people are going to bust it out in pro. Castle would be someone I could believe would be able to play it and would be willing to go for it. If you're down to play Nasus, you're probably down to play Varus top. So we'll see. It is going to be the Nocturne, though, grabbed up. Of course, Orianna not there to be paired with it, nor is Aurora. Those are the 2 most high priority pairings generally with the Nocturne in pro play. Yeah. So those are gone, which I think is part of the reason why DSG was willing to leave that up. There still are things like Kennen that you can pair with it. Generally, it's Nocturne plus a flanker, you know, that is really powerful, or Nocturne plus that potential shockwave combo, but they are going to be able to take away the Nico. Varus, obviously, very common duo down the bot side.
And I'd say with the Nocturne, the Nico does become a mid-flex much more than otherwise. If this was APA in the mid lane, I'd say it's going mid for sure, but it's Darkwing, so it's a little bit more of a question mark. I think those are 2 good picks into the Varus by Sentinels. Well, we will see what DSG wants to draft for, if they want to just go for something a bit more standard, or if they want to play for lane. So they're going a little bit more middle of the road. Obviously, I don't really consider Bard like a true enchanter, but it is a range support that has a pretty powerful laning 2v2, and it is also something that can give you some engage. And it's a pretty common pick into Nico. It can negate a little bit of the Nico's early power. I also wouldn't be surprised, even though it's into Varus, if Rahel kind of shoehorns himself onto Kai'Sa somehow. Because I remember the last time these teams played, there was a massive priority on Kai'Sa. Rahel and Sajed both had insane Kai'Sa stats in LCS lock-in, so it's just a comfort pick for both of them. Even if the lane is a little bit rough, when you pair it with Nico and Nocturne, you can get some pretty good pairings.
Yeah, the other option, if you care more about the lane, would be something like Jhin, obviously. You can go, you know, a little bit more kind of the defensive option, long-range option that can assist with the dive just by opening up on the curtain call. But Kai'Sa is what you would go if you want to just fully commit to that dive, you know, alongside the Nocturne and this Nico. Has been a blind Ambessa up on top side, so the question is, do you want to counterpick top? And instead, they are just going to grab the Sivir, so gives them some wave clear. And Sivir enables the dive in kind of a different way. If you're drafting some other melee champs, you know, you're just speeding them up, running in, and kind of helping out in that way. Pretty good scaling, able to spell shield the Bard ultimate if need be. So I don't expect Sentinels to have the same type of bot prior they did in game 1, but they should still be able to neutralize that lane and try and outscale as we go into the 4 or 5 bans, with Castle again having kind of his pick of top lane, and now they get to throw bans at impact. Yeah, exactly. I mean, now that you didn't go Renekton or some sort of counter pick on 3, you let that drop, it is going to be protection bans. Renekton is the obvious one. Volibear is something that is more niche, but is still quite popular as an answer into the Ambessa. There's a number of different directions you can go. Honestly, kind of would have preferred if Impact just grabbed a counter pick, you know, grabbed the Renekton on 3, because I feel like Sivir is pretty plug and play and is relatively low priority anyway, so I don't even know that it would have been banned out. And also, fun fact, Impact was the most fearless player of LCS lock-in. He played 14 unique champions. Yeah. In 2020 Summer Split, he played 7. Yep. There you go. It's a new year, new Impact. It is. Fearless helps, but it's also just surprising that he's playing so much different stuff. I really feel like he's taken it as a challenge that he needs to expand his champion pool to extend his career, but they are waiting for the 5th pick counter, really going pretty safe here with Darkwings on his Ahri pick. Yep, so going to be able to grab that Ahri, but it does mean that you're blinding your Ahri when you could have just counterpicked top here, so it's a bit of a denial pick. I think they only could do this since the Ambessa is still technically holding the flex.
So if Impact picks something specifically in Impact, and we know Castle's willing to play Nasus,
then you can move it into jungle.
You're kind of forced into blinding your mid there. So I think that's a pretty good read by Sentinels, even though it does put Darkwings in a bit of a disadvantageous position with the recently buffed Cassio, who's really strong.
It is funny that they're hovering the volley because, like I said, volley is one of those counters into the Mbessa. They could potentially take it away and just play it jungle or top.
Double flex it.
But I almost feel like they're just saying, I know what you want to pick, and just kind of hovering it in that way. It feels more of that, and they are going to grab the Mundo. I really like this DSG draft. You have some champions here on 4-5 that are really good for counter engage when you're looking at Cassio and Mundo, champions that are difficult to dive through, and is going to make things pretty tough, I think, here for Sentinels. So now the question is, what are we going to get on the top side? This was the pick that I mentioned, and they are going to go with a Volibear. Volibear's really, really hard for Mbessa to lane into. As you get more levels, as you scale up, you can start to win out in that 1v1, but Volibear just pops the E, walks at you. You cannot trade into the shield. If the shield hits you, you're screwed. If the shield doesn't hit you but hits Volibear, you still have to back off and not trade.
We only have 15 seconds until they can't trade anymore. How much worse is the Mundo matchup?
Mundo just has no chance.
Even worse.
Like, yeah, you would just be relegated to purely farming at max range with cleavers for a long time. So
fair enough.
I mean, you just can't do any damage to him. You don't have enough consistent damage, really.
Not to mention, Kryra really loves playing the Mundo. Picked it in his win over LYON in LCS Lock-In, where DSG really put themselves on the map. But I agree with your overall read of this draft. I'm a really big fan of what DSG has put together. I was not a big fan of what they put together in Game 1, but I think they have really good scaling, really good counter engage, and it's going to put Sentinels in a difficult spot. Sentinels has to do a lot right to not get outscaled in this game.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how they do play it out here, and how Impact is going to be able to pilot this Volibear up in the top side. Not a pick I associate with him, though it is, as I mentioned, a pick that you do think about when you think about counter picks for this matchup. I want to see how many Volibear games he has played all time, and he has 4 in his career. And this is a player with, going on almost 1,000 games played in his career, so not a lot of Volibear games.
I have a Volibear game in my mind. I remember one of them was when he was on Team Liquid and the team had already clinched first and TFT was out and everyone was playing Freljord. So they did a Freljord league comp and he picked Volibear top and won. That's the only reason he picked it.
That's so funny.
I was hoping he'd only ever played it once and it was that Freljord game, but he's played it 4 times.
Yeah. So he's ruined the story. What a jerk.
Oh, he also played it at Worlds against Bin's Jax. That also didn't go well. So I know 2 of them off the top of my head.
To be fair, a lot of matchups against Bin's Jax do not go well.
Yeah, Bin was like 17, 18 at the time. You thought maybe? No, it didn't work.
Nope, didn't matter. This is GSG, and their kind of progression, obviously. In Split 1, Split 2 in 2025, before they started making the roster changes, they really struggled. They were 2-18. In the LCS Lock-In, though, 7-10. Hey, yeah, they didn't win this split, but the improvements have been very big for DSG. They went from a team that was just like a guaranteed loss every week, it felt like, a free win for teams, to a team that is actually competing, is taking games off of top teams, and is really pushing people in a way that I think has made them so much more fun to watch. They are very scrappy. They feel like they're a pretty interesting team. So
absolutely,
it's just cool to see that improvement year over year.
Yeah, I really do feel like, and we'll see if this ends up being proven true throughout the spring split, but every team has a chance of beating every other team, especially 4 through 8 in the power rankings. So I'm really looking forward to having a competitive race for the playoffs here in the LCS Spring Split. And early trading, pretty aggressive there by Sentinels. So Sajed and Lions do need to be able to do well in this laning phase. That has been their weakness because we know Sajed can play so well in team fights.
Yeah, and I mean, Sajed, because he is playing the cleanse instead of the barrier, it's a lot more difficult in the 2v2 early, and that's why they traded so aggressively. Rahel just basically ran in and popped barrier and used that for trading. And cleanse is not going to be that helpful at this point in the game for Sajed for these fights, but feeling like he needs it because of the fear tether, because of the charm, because of the root, because of the point and click stun from Volibear. There's a lot of CC. He knows he is going to be a target, so he wants the cleanse for later, but very intelligently, Sentinels do utilize that in the early game to get a nice advantage.
2 Sivers smacking the turret as well. Not as potent as the double Caitlyn's, but still pretty effective there in the early laning phase. And other than that, junglers both just full clearing. Kryra a little bit afraid of this Bottom Crab looks like he does want to cross to the top side since he has no bot prio, just to make sure he gets one.
Yep, exactly. Wants to cross over to that top side, like you said. They have no bot prio, so knows he could get contested pretty easily. And Calmy had push in mid. He's going to TP back here pretty quickly, so should be able to take that away, no problem. Hanbok probably just going to get a ward down and look for a recall himself.
Yeah.
As he has already full cleared, and Kryra will be a little behind the tempo, but there's not even any camps to respawn just yet, so it's not really going to matter for the mid.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed with modern jungling, with everyone trying to game the jungle treat system to get an upgraded smite for second scuttle, that you do have like these pretty big forgiving pockets of time since, for instance, like full clearing back down for Nocturne, he's going to delay, maybe even reset before taking Krugs, just so he can get the extra treat at 5:30 when he takes his Krugs. So really no tempo loss at all for either jungler.
Another thing to note is that Cassio actually got buffed on this most recent patch, got a little bit more mana, and slight damage increase on the E. So it was already a champion that was seeing play and did get a little buff. So anytime that happens, it is going to kind of push it up a little bit as far as the priority is speaking. Because when you're thinking about first stand, it's like Cassio got play, but Cassio generally only got play later on in Fearless once a lot of the top champions were taken out.
It's a big buff. In terms of win rate, you use the E so much, so even a very small touch on the Cassio E is a large amount of damage throughout the game. Impact so far being a little greedy for this plate, but doing very well early on in that matchup.
Yep, as expected, but that definitely made me a little bit nervous. That's one of the ways that sometimes you can kind of throw a matchup is you can't trade back when you're hitting the tower, right? So it lets him get a pretty big chunk down on him for free. But really, as the Ambessa, it's basically about accepting that you can never take aggressive trades. You always have to be dashing backward. You never can allow the Sky Splitter to hit you with the stun, or you are just going to get slammed so hard in the trade because the HP differential is massive, right? You get this big shield and you deal a lot of damage. And Hanbok now moving down towards that bot side will be spotted out by the ward. And they do have them quite low, so is posturing to see if there's any sort of angle for the dive, but is going to spot Kryra and just back it off, continue farming. Yeah,
they both know exactly where each other are. As you can see, delaying those camps just a little bit. I hope did they change the jungle treatment mechanic on this patch? I'll have to double check this because normally you'd see a delay on this. So we're going to find out right now, Hanbok, if he takes these Krugs a little bit early.
I don't think they did because when we went over the patch, I don't think that was in there. So.
Yeah, so he's going to wait here until 5:30 because he wants his smite. You see it's at 22 charges right now. He wants that to go to 20, and if he does it at 5:30, it goes down by 2 because he's accumulated an extra treat, and now his smite gets upgraded. So that's exactly why Mundo also waited to clear his down. So now when they fight the second scuttle for level 6, their smite is upgraded, and that's exactly why these junglers are a little bit slower at killing their last camp.
Yep, you can see Nico has gone mid lane. That's that minion icon on the mini-map as Kryra trying to finish this off and will be able to do so. Calmy well aware that Nico could be there and won't be caught unaware, as Kryra just kind of laying in wait here for the Nico, and Huhi going to be pushed back pretty heavily. Won't fully chase in for the kill just yet, but the heal has to be popped there by Huhi, and Darkwings has to back off to defend him. I do wonder if these junglers are just metagaming themselves a little bit too much. Like, the one jungler I really loved in Lock-In to take advantage of this, like, 5:30 jungle camp was Blabber in a game. Just jumped over the back of the Dragon Pit at 5 minutes and killed it because he knew the other jungler was going to wait until 5:30 to kill his Gromp. But in this case, Kryra, they both did it, and then it wasn't even a contest because of mid-prio being in the favor of DSG. Yep, you can see Castle doing okay in the trades because he's kind of just avoiding Impact, never allowing Impact get that stun down into the Sky Splitter. But as a result, you're having to give up a lot of CS, and that has put him down 25 CS for now. The wave is pushing towards him, so it's going to go down a bit, but still, that is a very significant amount of CS to be following down. Also remember, tickets are still available for tomorrow's games and Tailgate. Head on over to Tixter.com/LCS or scan the QR code to buy now. We got games tomorrow. We got free boba. There's free coffee. There's all kinds of stuff going on at the LCS Tailgate. Really good tailgate today. Hoping it's great tomorrow as well. I was preferential to FlyQuest coffee. It made me a nice iced latte for free. Nice. Free is good value. I think it's spectacular. Trying to get the all-in here on Impact. Yeah, Impact trying to survive. The Sky Splitter barely lands. Castle could look for a flash kill. Impact was slowly getting whittled down. Has to be careful here. Doesn't want to get flashed on and killed off. Castle trying to get the push here. And he's going to look. He's going to flash for it. Impact does not react. That's a lazy recall, and I feel like that's one that everyone kind of saw coming when you're recalling there at such low health. The Nocturne ult will come in from Hanbok. should be able to get one back here, but in the counter matchup, gets solo killed. Game 1, he's counterpicked, and he is slammed. Game 2, he gets the counterpick and gets solo killed.
Another point for Castle right here. As the wave is going back, doesn't let Impact get back to his turret to catch it. Dodges out of the E as well, and then here's a situation where Impact doesn't have TP, so wants to get as efficient of a recall off as possible. But at this point, like when Castle sees him, you know that it's going to be an execution with his flash.
Yeah, I mean, he has 100 HP, and you have no ultimate to get HP from that. The Sky Splitter is delayed. It's not like there's any sort of instant react where you can bait him in with, a big shield right away. So that was just a lazy recall there from Impact. I mean, yes, Castle got some pressure on him, but you're still up 20 CS. He would have had a good buy, and he would have been in a good spot. Now, that CS advantage does not matter. You're down on experience. You're even on gold. And Castle is going to finish his first item first.
Yeah.
And once Ambessa gets one item, you start losing. It starts getting a lot harder in this matchup if you're not ahead.
That's 3 1v1 solo kills this series so far. So we'll have to track that. Castle really putting on a show here. Did equalize the gold there, but because of the counter pick, more so, he was down in CS early, and I really feel like DSG is very comfortable scaling right now. So the Mundo secured the first dragon, keeping up in his farm, actually ahead of Hambach. I think totally fine giving these grubs over. Just the Cassio, Ambessa getting out of the hard part of the lane, nearly getting to Eclipse, and then the Mundo really just ranking up his ultimate more and more. DSG should be very happy with this 1-1 game state with even gold.
Absolutely. I mean, Call Me, we saw him forcing the Spirit Rush there from Darkwings. Hambach used his first ultimate just to be able to trade back a kill on that top side. And yeah, when the Eclipse comes in, Ambessa just becomes a whole different champion. The Pop Blossom looking, Lions flashes away. Has to be a flashback safety from Huhi as well. The Chains Corruption came out from Sajed and did push him back.
Yep, so trade of support flashes right there. No ultimate on Sajed. Means they're not going to play aggressive. They don't necessarily need to play aggressive, though. It's not like Mundo is pulling off invades. There's no Drake up for another 3 minutes. There is a Heartsteel as the MasterCard Power Spike moment for Kryra. He would like to get a few cheeky procs, but doesn't need to force anything at this moment. With Mid-Prow, though, might be able to move in for Raptors.
Nice little sidestep there from Darkwings, but yep, assisting him on the invade. Kryra here with the help of Call Me, and we'll be able to smite away the Raptors and back off. We haven't touched on the fact that also Sajed is going to be playing on hit. Is going to not be the poke style. It is going to be lethal tempo. It is going to be Blade of Lynching, and looking for that on hit as Call Me goes with the Petrifying Gaze, gets charmed up here. Huhi sneaking around on the side, but has no flash or Pop Blossom, so it's hard to think that would get a kill.
It's interesting that he's gone on hit. I feel like they have enough sustained damage with Mundo and Ambessa Cassio that lethality could have been really effective to just try and get some easy poke on the Ahri or the Sivir, but probably just wants a little bit of 1v1 damage if he gets jumped on by the Volibear and the Nocturne.
Yeah, exactly. Probably just thinking, hey, I'm just going to be hitting the Volibear and the Nocturne in a lot of these fights, and Spell Shield's pretty annoying when you're playing that full poke build, so we'll see how it works out for him. Obviously, is kind of higher risk, higher reward. It's a lot more difficult to position effectively when you are playing on hit. You have to be a lot closer to deal that damage, but Darkwings here has the Spirit Rush up and available, is getting poked down a bit as TSG trying to bully their way into the river.
All this for a Crab. Early heal by Sentinels as well.
Darkwing's going to go back in with the Spirit Rush here, looking as they go for the engage with the Nocturne ulti. Darkwing's trying to finish off Sajed. Sajed is incredibly low. He does get burst down. Maximum dosage popped by Kryra. He is fighting, but Lions is running. In comes Castle from the back line, but the ulti misses on the Hambach. The Pop Blossom is back up, and it lands onto Castle. Impact going to try to knock him down, but he's knocked out of the air by Castle and slain. Rahel flashing back, trying to get out. Hui may have to block the briefcase. The Spell Shield comes back up, and they will survive. But Castle, with the reinforcements, makes all the difference in the fight.
Ends up being a 2-for-1 on the side of DSG. Could have been more if that Ambessa ultimate connects. So the early trading already meant no heal on Nico, and then they get the Spell Shield from Rahel. And that's actually when Darkwings and Hambach decide to all in. While they do manage to take down Sajed, Darkwings trades his life for it, and Kryra gets a couple nice Heartsteel procs. If that lands on Hambach, I think Castle cleans up, but he's still able to kill him at the end of this. They kill Impact instead and are able to push them out. So solid fight by DSG there with the scaling team comp. I think they got 3 Heartsteel procs for Kryra and have hit a couple big power spikes. So a pretty big win there for DSG.
Absolutely. I mean, Castle did a good job. Just gets in that back line. They all turn on him, but that meant that no one's hitting Call Me. And then the rest of the team just all pile in. You're hitting Castle, but they can't even burst him down. And Impact now Yes, he's almost level 10, but briefly down 2 full levels. And he is going for this tank-style build. And when you fall behind in that, you are not dealing a lot of damage, right? You're kind of just depending on the fact that you're going to outstat them when you are going for this more tank-style build. But look at these trades now. They are getting brutal. And Besta just has so many dashes, it becomes very difficult for Impact to really get in there and win any trades.
And who kills Mundo later in this game as well? This is looking really solid.
Sivir is the hope
for DSG. And it would have to be Sivir. Sivir's got to kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
Much like last game.
Sivir kind of has to kill everyone, but they're going to go in here on to Calmy. We'll see if they can be able to knock him down. The Fear Tether lands, and he is killed off there by Darkwings, and now Kryra going to be pushed back. So nice little pick off there from Hanbok.
Really nice. I mean, a flashless Cassio without backup, trying to play down towards the river with Dragon up. Nice capitalization there by Hanbok.
Impact was fighting pretty heavily there with Castle. Does get a nice little chunk down onto him, but now trying to pull back to that tower. Huhi looking to threaten on the flank here. He's going to be coming in from the side. Rahel is behind them. It's a flanking Sivir going to get flashed on by Kryra. Rahel's in trouble. The Pop Blossom's coming down. They're going to try to turn it around on the Lions. They knock him down. They get the kill. Rahel survives. Kryra staying around though, and now Calmy going to be TPing back in. So Jet is still there. Huhi can't actually land the root. Rahel trying to cut out. Kryra getting low, but doesn't have enough damage to finish him off. And on the top side, it's a 1v1 between Impact and Castle. Castle is kiting. Impact is coming. The Sky Splitter won't quite land. Takes a bite out of him, but doesn't have enough damage to knock him down. And on the other side, Kryra will be able to eventually claim the dragon. DSG coming out on top.
Really insane sequence there, and Kryra is so greedy on the Mundo. Pays off for him this time, as Lions has made it back on the map.
The binding gonna land there onto Impact. Castle just waiting for the cooldowns to come back up. Doesn't want to go in too early and get burst down, but might have had time for Impact to survive. The Sky Splitter comes down. The shield will land, and he will be able to back it out, but should be a plate probably going the way of Castle if he wants to stick around for it, and he's not going to.
Has to be afraid of Nocturne Ultimate, since that's going to be back up. That's how long this last play has developed. I don't even know if we'll have time to get a replay in of that last fight, but it was a 4v3 that DSG stuck around for because Calmy was going to revive and be able to teleport back, but while you're stalling, it's just an incredibly risky, exposed position to be. DSG get away with it, now have 2 Drakes, and Castle is trying to catch this wave, but there's a lot of Sentinels players here.
Here comes Hanbok, the Paranoia going to get dropped. He's trying to cut out, has so many dashes, but not quite enough, and he's going to go down. Sentinels do eventually get him. Made him work for it. It looked like for a second he might have had a chance to get out, but there's just so much DC, so much mobility for them to chase him down, and they get the kill. Looking to try to grab first tower here as well.
And I really like what Hanbok and Darkwings are doing. They have to accelerate this game on the timers of the Ahri and Nocturne ultimates. If they find a way to find isolated targets, it's one of the most inescapable combos you can have. The triple dash from the Ahri as well as the Nocturne ultimate means you can get your kills as long as the backup isn't there, because you're so exposed diving super far in. So at the time, they did a really good job catching Calmy in mid lane and a really good job catching Castle down bot, but they have to keep that tempo up if they want a chance in this game.
Yeah, and the problem is, even though Hanbok has been very effective, 4 KP here at 16 minutes on the Nocturne, has been very, very active, like you said, playing around those timers. They're just dead even on gold, and they're down 2 dragons. And Impact trying to look for an engage here on to Calmy. The Pop Blossom coming through, but the TP flank is already there. Kryra is here as well, and the Bard ulti will buy some time. Lions is here to try to back him up. Castle's in on Darkwings. Darkwings in a lot of trouble, has to flash out the safety. The Public Execution is going to connect, as well as the Chains of Corruption. The Cavalry come in from DSG and crush Sentinels in the top lane.
DSG completely collapsed. They're likely to lose this mid turret as well, though. It's a race to see how much they can get done with this Rift Herald. First turret has already gone over on the side of Sentinels. This is weird. It's like Sentinels actually played a little too fast, because this was a fight with no Nocturne ultimate. So they tried to make a fast play with the Nico, end up getting completely annihilated once Kryra arrived.
Hanbok is trying to position for a potential ult here, but there's still backup there for DSG. They have 4 members in the area. TP going to be coming in here, though, from Darkwings. They want to try to go for the long chase, but Darkwing is going to have to immediately pop the ulti, and look at that! Sajed gets deleted from the map. Impact arrives with a teleport as well. They're going to try to chase down Castle. They're going to get him, too. A couple kills going back the way of Sentinels.
My turn now, says Hanbok and Darkwings, as the teleport ends up being the perfect bait to get Hanbok in. they just made Sajed completely disappear right there. So Hambach 4-0-2 now, needs to completely play around this ultimate cooldown. I think in extended 5v5 fights, no chance. But if they can keep this game messy, they'll have a window to victory.
I mean, that damage on Sajed was pretty surprising. I was seeing, okay, he's got cleanse, he's got flash. You can't cleanse death, though. So this was problematic. He got one shot.
I still don't quite understand it, because I guess Ahri just full combo with the Nocturne RQ auto is just enough. Yeah, I
mean, Hambach is very fed. Hambach is really strong at this point of the game, so Hambach, exactly like you said, RQ auto, and it was pretty much just a charm. I don't even know if the Orb Deception came through. There. I don't even think it was yet. I think it was just charm and the W from Ahri just insta-died.
Maybe barrier next time. It would have been better in lane.
Yeah.
Cleanse didn't help him there.
Maybe it'll help him later. We'll see. Cleanse can definitely have a lot of value later on in the game, but it is tough. And Rahel now has the Infinity Edge completed. It is going to be the Wit's End on the other side there for Sajed. So trying to survive this Ahri as well as the Nico that could be flying to the back line. Volley does some magic damage as well, of course, but Hambach is still going to be problematic for him. And Rahel, if he can find those targets, if he has people to ricochet off of, is going to be quite powerful. But for now, there's absolutely no heal cut for the Mundo. And Mundo's healing can be a problem.
I think it will be a problem. Level 13, really been able to power farm here. So Hambach is quite fed, had to be running around the map to get these kills. Has converted on a lot of them, but hasn't stopped Cryer from farming, who is, Cryer has more CS than either Sentinel solo, which is pretty shocking to see.
It is kind of crazy. Rahel taking a little bit of poke there as he was bound up by Lions and chunked away by Castle. They're TPing in. Rahel takes another briefcase to the back. He's already at half HP. This is going to make this dragon fight kind of hard, but they don't want to give over just a free soul point.
Yeah, DSG really want to stay grouped up, because unlike other Nocturne compositions with Orianna or Azir, when you group up at the Darkness or even Kennen, that's when you get punished. Grouping up is great against the Ahri Nocturne, so DSG need to make sure no one can get isolated by the Ahri Nocturne combo.
Hui was trying to look for a flank there, but was going to be marked by Castle. They're going for the engage. Paranoia popped here. Darkwings is on the flank. Can he find an angle? He just can't really find anything to go in. Does land a charm, though, and they are able to try to finish off the dragon, but it's taken by Kryra, so they use the Paranoia to just kind of sow some fear on the side of DSG, but Kryra just walks up and takes it.
That was really well played by DSG as a team as they go for more on the red buff.
Hambach in a lot of trouble, has the flash. Will he need to use it? Going to get tagged by that slow and now has to flash. The Public Executionist was coming through. Going to be hit by the Tempered Fade as he tries to get over the wall. Rahel there to cover, and that should be all that's going to happen from this.
The reason that was so impressive to me with DSG is the Nocturne Ultimate shrinks your individual field of view so much, but it was as if they were not under the Nocturne Ultimate, because Cassio was marking Ahri over on the left, and then Kryra still moved in for the Drake. You can look at your teammates' screens when you're on stage like this if you need to, but it's still a very difficult skill to stay oriented. So at first they stay grouped up, but then Kryra just senses Drake is probably low. I'd say the instant that popped up on his screen, he just spammed the smite key and walked out. But that's what Hambach was hoping to avoid by pressing the ultimate. You press the ultimate, you make them back away, you're hoping to just burst the objective and get out of there, but it ends up backfiring because the third Drake goes over to Kryra.
And even Darkwings was going on the other side, trying to sell the fact that, hey, we're engaging, right? He spear rushed in, charmed up, call me, but then very quickly Kryra realized, as you're saying, oh, it's not actually a fight, it's a flip, right? It's just going for the dragon. And it went from 1255, I believe, straight to 0, so able to finish that off. Is level 14 now. Of course, the level 16 spike of maximum dosage is ridiculously powerful. Gives you that flat HP for every additional person that is around you.
That's huge.
It makes it so hard to burst you down with a well-timed W. You pop the ult in the middle of everyone, and all of a sudden you kind of are a brick wall, and there's not even an ignite or like anything to be able to apply some healing debuffs to this Mundo. Eventually they will have to be picking that up.
You'd imagine so. But at the same time, it's probably Rahel's third. He's probably going to end up going Mortal Reminder here, but you never know.
Sometimes you just want LDR for bigger numbers, even though it's less effective.
I'm trying to think.
It's got to be Sivir. Sivir is one of the best users of Executioner's Calling, because you can ricochet across the whole team.
But I still want the Lord Doms, because he needs to kill everyone. He needs the damage.
Yeah, it's a tough choice to make. We'll see if someone else is going to be able to, you know, you can always try to do something where you'd like just grab an Oblivion Orb on
I think
Huhi or
Impact
whatever.
should grab an Oblivion Orb and just try and hit people with E.
You're like, buddy, you lost your counter matchup. It's
Yeah.
time to play support. Buy me that Oblivion Orb.
Yeah, Oblivion Orb, lock it next.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's true.
Well,
He
Knight's
needs to
Vow.
scale.
Yeah, he definitely does, but so far, DSG in full control, and especially after taking that last dragon, going to be feeling really good. They're going to go for an engage here over on a Castle. Castle trying to cut out, does flash, but will it be back to safety? Hambach is coming in. Lions looking for the binding over the wall. Can't quite get it. The public execution will not buy enough time, and the Pop Blossom on the side, connecting onto Sajet. There's the cleanse, but it doesn't even matter. He is knocked down in a hurry. Rahel ricocheting through the team as Calmy's trying to turn around on the impact. Darkwings looks for the charm. It's going to be sidestepped, though. The Petrifying Gaze does not connect onto anyone. Spell Shield there on the Cassio Q, but Rahel has to turn, has to fight. The binding from Lions across both members is buying a lot of time. Hambach is in the backline, but Calmy cannot fall. Rahel flashes in, but now he's on top of Kryra. Kryra's going to have to hit the blast, going to get out of there. Lions popping the Magical Journey, looking to get out. Rahel fighting on the side with Kryra. Rahel needs a Spell Shield. He doesn't have it. Kryra flashes in, knocks him upside the head, takes him out, and there's the reaction from Golden Glue. He thought that fight was theirs, and now Darkwings might get chased down here as well. Kryra's got so much move speed.
Oh, the Baron!
Hits the Baron to take him out, but it's an execute as a result.
Oh my God, he killed him by accident. Is he still looking for him? He doesn't necessarily. Does he even see the call out that he was killed by a minion?
I think he knows he's killed, but the question is, can they do Baron, right? Like, you would have got the kill eventually, but this does speed it up. And now, are they going to go
This
for it
game
here
is so
immediately?
crazy.
They're
No
TPing
time to
in.
breathe. It looks like Kryra is going to heal up a little bit. Everyone trying to get it. Rahel still dead. Darkwing doesn't have TP, so I think DSG can just burst this down.
I absolutely think so. Cassio and on-hit Varus, they shred this thing, so that Baron is gone. And it gives them enough time to recall and to head out and try to claim Soul here as well. Sentinels, this might be their last shot at a reasonable fight.
Yeah, so right now, Sentinels just need to get as much control over this space as possible, shove out as many waves and get vision, because the way they win is with messy fights. That's how that last fight that Golden Glue wanted to be right almost worked. If they can kill Sajet and Calmy early, then they'll have a chance to move through that behemoth of a Mundo. Still no heal cut, though. Kryra is a beast.
They're just pushing out the side lanes here, knocking down tower after tower.
they're not
Castle
gonna get
is
Soul here,
unanswered. Sentinels just rush over to try to go for this dragon. The question is, can DSG get there in
they're
time?
late.
It's not dying that fast, but it is now down to about 2,500 HP. They should be able to finish off. The question is, can they escape afterwards? They're going to try to turn it around here onto Calmy. Rahel with a great sidestep avoids it, and the Pop Blossom comes in, and they are getting destroyed. DSG pile into the fight, but it's too little too late. Kryra trying to stay alive here with the maximum dosage, but Darkwings is looking for more. He hits the charm on the Lions, but it's a beautiful self-McHales as Lions runs for the hills. Will survive, but it's only him and Castle that live to tell the tale as DSG show up to the dragon too late and get destroyed.
What an absolute barn burner of a game. We haven't even had time for a replay in the last 4 minutes, and they are now strong, pushing both mid and bot lane by taking the Baron buff off of nearly everyone.
It looked like that was going to be the fight that ends the game for DSG, that gets them Soul, that should have set them up. But this flank from Huhi, the Pop Blossom was beautiful. Darkwings gets good angle, and DSG was just so late. It's like they didn't expect Sentinels to rush it when they were pushing side lane. They thought they were going to be matched.
Sivir pushed side wave, but DSG didn't have any vision in the bottom river, so they're like, surely two people don't start the Drake. That has to be the call, because when Castle goes in there alone against a Nocturne comp, he's going to die at the start of this. Then everyone tries to follow through, but remember, the nearsightedness from Nocturne means they can't see it. They get completely womboed by who he's flaying. And the only thing I can think here, so originally I thought, okay, DSG is just going to trade up in gold, because DSG does outscale here. So we'll give you that Drake. We're going to take all your inhibitors, right? Double inhibitor, cycle for the next Drake. But that clearly wasn't the play. I think it's just a straight up misplay by DSG, because the worst thing you can do is funnel in late against Nocturne, Ahri, Nico, and have exactly what happens happen. So the game is very even in gold again, but the level 16 Mundo is also still going to be Mundo.
He absolutely is still going to be Mundo. Rahel now does have some heal cut, though. Darkwing's working in for the death cap. But Huhi was really all about that engage, and the question is, you know, can you replicate that? Obviously, you're in a much better spot than you were.
Yeah.
But that fight was an insta-kill on Sajet, where it's Pop Blossom into Charm into just insta-death there on the Varus, and he is going Dusk and Dawn third here, so a little bit of AP getting mixed into the build. It's going to be very high damage if he can stay safe, but has struggled to do that in the fights, which is why in pro play people generally pay poke, because it's a lot easier to stay back max range and spam out arrows.
Absolutely. Just doing a quick look at everything. DSG has really struggled to keep their side laners safe. I think part of it is because Kryra is prioritizing his farm and his own power so much that he's not necessarily shadowing side lanes as much, because that's kind of what you need to do against things like Nocturne Ahri, is if you're just kind of in the area, you'll make even 2v2s, and it kind of stops the Nocturne from being able to pull off successful ultimates. But in this game, very frequently, Hanbok is finding isolated targets. And
Hanbok now has the G8, has been able to do a really good job this game. Honestly, playing a great series thus far. Kryra is ahead as far as the experience is concerned, and has that level 16, as you called out. But we'll see if Hanbok can be a difference maker. Darkwings now has the death cap completed, so the damage definitely ramping up pretty heavily with that buy from the Ahri.
And Rahel is potentially being the savior of the scaling on the side of Sentinels, because the Mundo Ambessa Cassio, you think that's just going to scale and scale in terms of damage, but if one of these guys is getting one shot early, now with even the death cap Ahri, that's when Rahel's really going to be able to turn it on at the end of these fights. Considerably ahead in items to Sejed, which is interesting, almost with the Bloodthirster. Surely Sejed is sitting on a decent amount of gold.
Yep, grab the Seekers there. So
yeah, there we go.
Is going to be able to have that to try to respond to any sort of engage. It is one of the nice things about champions like Kai'Sa, like Varus, who can splash in some AP and actually get value from it. You can go Zhonya's. And Zhonya's is just such a powerful defensive item against dive like this, where he's getting one shot. And now if you're able to react to the Pop Blossom or a Charm and immune that with the Seekers, that can be a lot of value for the team.
Yeah, really setting up here for this next fight with double Seekers on their carries. Cassiopeia and Varus both having Seekers at the moment, and this next Drake is likely where everyone's gonna collect themselves.
And as much as the Mundo is incredibly tanky, Impact is very, very tanky on the other side as well. He is full tank on the Volibear and is going to be able to create some space. And if he can create enough space, if he can create enough chaos with all these divers, hey, if Sivir is auto-attacking, she is going to hurt at this point. There is the Bloodthirster now complete for Rahel, so on those 4 fully completed items, still does not have tier 2 boots and was just been prioritizing these item completions, but he is definitely going to be a problem and can shrug off any small damage now with that Bloodthirster complete.
I hope he has the Empowered Recall. Okay, he's actually just going to teleport in right away for this flank. They're going. Yeah,
they're going deep here. The Chains of Corruption do connect, but in onto Sejed. They're immediately coming. The Pop Blossom doesn't connect. Look at the Seekers to buy some time, but on the other side, Impact and Rahel trying to deal the damage. Castle comes in. He knocks down one. Rahel's in the middle of everyone. Rahel, that is not where you want to be. He stands, he fights, but he falls, and the cause of death is Blood Force trauma as Impact is fallen as well. He's got to run for the hills. Hanbok and Impact are the only ones surviving. Hanbok surely can't get out of this one. Impact has run for the hills and does survive for now. Hanbok not so lucky though. DSG win the fight. It's a scrappy one, but at the end of the day, it's 4 for 2.
Really interesting engage right there. I almost feel like Sentinels was trying to lull DSG into the false sense of security, because they kind of did the teleport on the Nocturne. So when you see Ahri shown on that top turret, you feel like you have a little bit of extra time to set up, and that's why DSG moves in it. But at that moment, Sentinel says, no, actually we go now. I'd say it ends up being 2D sync though, because they can't combo anything directly with the Ahri. Both Seekers being burned is crucial. That first Seekers ends up being negated a little bit by the Bard ultimate, but it gives him that fraction of a second to move away during the Hanbok CC, and it just ends up giving them the Soul as well as the Baron. So a little bit of Exodia going on for DSG after that fight.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Sentinels now. They just couldn't quite coordinate on that engage. Maybe if Impact could have buffered the Chains of Corruption, immune that with your ult, get in there on the backline, it could have been very different. But Impact got hit by the Chains of Corruption as he's running in, lost most of his health, and spent most of the fight running. And then by the time he goes in, there was so much time bought by the Chains of Corruption, then the Seekers on the engage. It meant that on the other side, Castle and Kryber are just doing what they want, and Rahel was getting pressured heavily.
And the really nice thing about winning late game fights with Seekers is you get gold, and you just get them back, because you can go double Zhonya's. You don't have to worry about that cooldown, and now they can just immune those engages yet again.
Yeah, and that is going to make it very, very difficult, because It's not like you're going to be wanting to go on anyone but those 2 targets. Don't really have the option, and now you have to deal with that Infernal Soul plus all the scaling problems. There's still a chance if you can find that perfect engage and just delete someone. Obviously, Infernal Soul not going to help with the defenses, but I think he's going to have to find a pretty perfect
there's a fight
engage.
coming. Call Me is isolated, so it's a 5v4 chance if Sentinels want it.
Yeah, Darkwings is spotted out on the ward. He is very deep behind them, and he's just going to cut the wave. And this is pretty smart from him, but the question is, can DSG push him back and stop this? They want to Baron buff up that wave, but on top lane, they're looking for an angle onto Call Me, who's pushing forward. This is a big wave there, and Rahel needs to get over there to try to clear that out if they want to defend topside, but not going to be able to do it for now.
I'm a little surprised that they didn't pull the trigger. I'm actually surprised that DSG didn't just 5-man against Nocturnari and instead try to 4-1. That's really risky, even if they're able to get a lot of turret damage. LYON's trying to babysit Call Me, but I feel like the Nocturnari could probably get one of them. They're just hesitant to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I guess they're just worried about Lions potentially muting the engage, but here goes now. They're going to go in onto Sajed. Sajed trying to survive as long as he can. Pops the Zonias here as Kryra in the middle of everyone. Call Me flashes forward, hits the petrifying gaze, and down goes the Sivir. Pop Blossom in the backline, but does it even matter? They don't have the damage to get the job done. Kryra is unstoppable with Castle pushing forward in this fight, looking for Impact. He's the next target on the list, and Impact is standing, is fighting, is surviving as long as he possibly can, but he's got nowhere to go. Hui trying to cut the wave, but he can't get that done. DSG do lose Sajed, but they take out the Sivir early and they win the fight.
Infernal Soul and Baron doing a lot of heavy lifting there with both AD carries getting burst down. I feel like DSG was kind of trying to bait the engage with their spread out positioning. Ends up working out. They break the middle inhibitor. They go for more.
The public execution comes in. Darkwing's on the run with the Spirit Rush, trying to get back to the base to heal back up. Hambach and Hui keep him alive for now, and that may signal DSG to just back up, and the Paranoia is here. They're going to go in on Castle, but that is a tanky top laner, and he realizes, I do not win this 1v1.
Yeah, Castle says, you want me? You're fighting me? And he just pushes Hambach away immediately. I'd say Sentinels is making this game quite hard, though, for DSG. Even with Infernal Soul, even with Baron, their reward for the teamfight victory is the mid inhibitor and the top inhibitor tower. So Rahel's going to continue to get items, and even if you have an Infernal Soul, those late game Sivers can be devastating.
They really can, and honestly, if Call Me didn't catch Rahel there, it could have been a very different fight.
Yeah.
He caught him with the flash petrifying gaze, stunned him up, they burst Rahel down. If Rahel lives through that fight, I mean, the rest of the team was alive for quite a long time. They just don't have the damage. If Sivir ever dies, an Ahri without ultimate is never killing this Mundo. It's just not going to happen.
Definitely not. Looks like he's getting that 100% crit Sivir completely online with lethal tempo, so able to do a lot of work. But it's difficult for the Sivir to hard carry against Cassio because you're always going to be in range of that petrifying gaze, as well as Call Me played that last fight. But Baron buff is down, just trying to collect a few plates here, maybe find the right fight. If Hambach sees an angle, again, Ambessa's top lane could teleport in, but it gives windows where Sentinels might try and take advantage.
Yeah, it's just getting difficult because it feels like no one can really match Castle. You have people that can try to wave clear against them, but now that you've lost the tower in mid lane, you've lost the tower in top lane, it gets a lot more hard, but of course Castle has to respect the fact that it might not be a 1v1. Hambach can fly in there. Yeah,
and I'd say the double Zonias as well as the Bard ultimate are really doing a lot of work now to just sustain these fights long enough for the on-hit Varus and the Cassiopeia to end up winning, but Sentinels just got to continue to make this game hard.
Yep. And Rahel is going to try to have to find that perfect angle, find a way to get in there and get that damage done. But as you're saying, there's a lot of tools that can spell his doom. If he does get hit by a petrifying gaze, if he gets stuck in the miasma, if he gets hit by the public execution, really even if Kryra just gets in on top of him unopposed, you're probably going to lose that. So it is very difficult being this short-range champion on the Sivir. And DSG are spacing out the fights quite well, so his job is not easy.
Yep, currently 90% crit. Once he completes that last seal item, he'll be at 100. Thanks to the new 80 carry quest as well. Still got a lot of gold if they can continue to extend this game to get more and more items, but this Elder is going to be very difficult for Sentinels to contest.
Yeah, a bit of a weird TP from Castle. He just TP'd from the top lane right to the beginning of the mid lane. It didn't go very far, so that is down, but he does have the TP shield, and it does last quite a long time. So that is up and available. Kryra just zoning them away, stepping in their face, daring them to try to engage onto the Mundo, and Rahel trying to get control of this wave and look for a push. Hambach's on the side, but Sajed now is just going to be soloing the Elder.
Yeah, and they don't have vision of it currently, so Hambach would love to get something over that wall, but has no way of getting vision.
Yeah, it is going down very slow. Online going to be popped there by Rahel. The charm lands on the castle, but it doesn't do too much to him. Rahel can't really find a way in. It's just so difficult for him to step forward and auto attack without being in range of the rest of the damage. And Rahel has eaten some poke from these briefcases. Sky Splitter comes down to be able to spot them out. Darkwing's going to be TPing back from base now here. The Bard ultimate not going to connect as they are going to pop the Paranoia. Will they go in for the engage? Darkwings has Castle low. They're trying to burst down Kryra. They can't quite do it as maximum dosage has been popped, and Kryra's healing right back up, but they're going to try to kite it out. It's a trade now of the max dosage for the Spirit Rush, but the Ahri without an ultimate is not going to have a lot of power.
I don't really feel like Sentinels has a way back in. Nocturne ultimate is going to take so long, but that Elder is still very tanky, so Sentinels have to brute force their way through.
The Castle's looking for a wraparound here. Impact has joined back from base, TPing back in. One briefcase does about 20% of the health there of Rahel, who's trying to step forward, trying to look for this fight. On the side, Castle looking for an engage. Lion trying to find an angle for a binding. Darkwing's in a lot of trouble. Has to flash back from the public execution. There's a charm, but it's a flash forward from Castle. He's gone already. Hambach on the side is getting destroyed. Impact is trying to tank it up. The Pop Blossom comes through, but it just doesn't even matter because Rahel is already gone. DSG are winning the fight. It feels like DSG have finally been able to take over. It's a double kill there for Sajed as he gets some revenge after a tough game. DSG gonna take us to a game number 3.
Look at how much Heartsteel health Kryra accumulated throughout this game. An absolute force on this Mundo, could not be taken down, and gotta shout out Call Me for tagging Rahel again with the Petrifying Gaze as DSG even the series.
So tough for Rahel to really find an angle in this fight, and Castle being able to get in the backline takes down the Ahri. DSG not going down without a fight. The year-long series score moves to 5-5. The best of 11 going to be decided next game.
You think these teams are evenly matched, Giselle?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure.
When he counterpicked, he got solo killed by Castle. Even though he did have a really big advantage, he kind of threw it away with that lazy recall, got killed on by Castle under his tower, and I want to see if Impact can stabilize things, because if Castle isn't getting a big lead, you do feel like it's going to be a lot harder for DSG.
Absolutely. I'd say, to me, both of the first 2 games, with how evenly matched these teams are, were kind of decided by draft. The draft that we favored ended up winning both games. Game 1 was the 1-2-3 blind pick, essentially, of Ezreal, Karma, and Orianna, and then just the raw scaling that DSG had last game with the Mundo Cassiopeia, as well as being able to fight against the pretty early game pair of Nocturne Ahri, worked out pretty well.
Xin is up and available, not banned, and a lot of these AD junglers have been worked through, so wouldn't be surprised to see that. Rumble also going to be available, but Galio is unbanned, even though it has received second phase bans last game, so both teams kind of thinking through the options, Vi, Xin, Rumble, Galio, where do you want to go?
Looks like they've locked in the Vi, so prioritizing Hambach having a high amount of agency for this game. He's been having a great series, even though Kryra won player of the game. It wasn't because he was gapping the Nocturne, it was because of the scaling of the Mundo. Hambach has made so much happen on Skarner and Nocturne so far, so I understand prioritizing his pick, especially with Galio being up. The Rumble priority drops a little bit.
Definitely does. There's always the option, occasionally you'll see teams just take both away and say, all right, we took the counter too. But then you are blinding your Galio, or have to be willing to be a little bit more creative. I would be expecting the Xin, though, to come through. I do think it's still so powerful, and you can kind of just go a pretty standard 1-2 here. Even if Impact goes for the Galio, it's not so much a counter as it is like an answer. It's more of a neutralizer, and so Castle can still go first strike and farm gold.
I could also see Impact taking Ornn and being fine.
Yeah.
So he's still got options, even if they dropped him to 4-5. So I actually think Sentinels has a pretty important choice to make here. If they want to just lock in a powerful bottom lane they still feel like is left, the Lulu and Seraphine were both banned, so things like Yunara Lulu or Ashe Seraphine, they can't pair, which then makes them go down and just pick the Galio, and they'll pair something else with Yunara.
Yep, so they are going to be grabbing Yunara here. They already have some really good engage with the Galio as well as the Vi, where DSG does kind of need some of that. So the question is, are they going to match picks here? Are they going to go a different direction? You can, of course, just grab your own AD carry, knowing that it's going to be Yunara on the other side, or you could grab, powerful engage support, something along those lines, if you so choose. But it is going to be the matching of AD carries, I think, here. Kai'Sa, to me, was Sejed's best champion by a lot. Oh, no, it's not actually going to get locked in. It's going to be the Yone. So very interesting. So they are going to go grab Yone, and then they have multiple protection bans to be able to try to make things a little bit more difficult.
Really aggressive here. Aggressive drafting by DSG.
It's a great
by
combo.
Picking the Yone this early. Yes, it's a good combo, Rumble Yone, but they kind of know that Darkwings is a control mage player, and they probably feel comfortable with this stage of Fearless playing it into any of his picks. Not to mention they can ban Annie. Maybe Victor would be the next ban, because I can imagine Darkwings finding a way to neutralize this with Victor a bit.
Yeah, you know, you're thinking about things like Victor, about Hui, about, you know, champions along those lines that he does like to go towards. Syndra is another pick, you know, so he almost always stays within that realm, and I think they're just saying, Annie is a problem, the rest I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, Yone is pretty good into a lot of these matchups. You just survive early, and then you can become quite powerful later. But with the Kai'Sa not being grabbed in the first round, it will not be able to be available in the second round. They're going to take away both the Kai'Sa and the Xayah, expecting that it is such a strong answer to Vi Galio. So when you're thinking about other safe picks, you can, again, go towards the Jhin. That's always a common one that people do just kind of stay far back. There also are some kind of like less common answers that people will go towards. Sometimes they're just going to play things like, oh, okay, I'll just play MF and just stand and ult over the top or whatever.
Yeah. I was going to say that if they want to dominate lane, they'd pick something with Caitlyn, but once you pick Alistair, your chances of dominating lane go down drastically.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that plays towards the solo lanes, which is understandable with the state of the series so far and how much success Castle and Calming have had in lane.
And it's so interesting, too, because they clearly have a conditional pick here for AD carry, because they're going AD carry on 5. You know, that is very uncommon. But now they see there is a Rakan, you know, not obviously a super strong laner either. They could try to pick for winning 2v2 if they want to go for one of those angles. Like you said, you can go for things like Caitlyn, but of course it can be difficult to survive the potential dive. Rakan, Galio, Vi. I feel like Jhin makes sense to me just because you need to kind of stay safe, have some sort of value. But, you know, you can go more aggressive options if you feel confident.
Yeah, there's so much go in, and Jhin Rumble, Jhin Yone have always been really potent combos. And it's Vayne. Oh my god.
Okay, well this is crazy.
Oh
I mean,
god.
Vayne in some ways can survive, but the problem is there's so much point and click. And Rakan ult hits you whether you're stealth or not. Vi ult, you can't outplay with a tumble. Like, that thing is following you no matter what. And then when you get hit by the Vi ult, the Galio ult's coming over the top. All these combos are coming through, and it is going to be Smolder here. So are they going to swap the Yone to top lane for Castle? So now it becomes a bit of a mind game, right? Of are they going to move things around?
This is crazy.
And the question on my mind is, were they going to do that? It looks like they will not.
They swap it back. It's a 20 seconds. This means Yone's mid, Rumble's top. But both teams just threw down at the end of this draft, for sure. Game 3 of Fearless, the 11th game they've played against each other this year. They're 5-5, and they decide to play this decider with Vayne 5th pick, and then also a Smolder mid into the Yone. My goodness.
Yeah, and this is famously the matchup that FlyQuest against Genji in Game 5, I believe they played.
In 2024, absolutely. It was, in that case, though, it was Smolder Ziggs, and they were able to, with Ziggs bot, and they were able to really just stall out the game. Not to mention, the 225 stacks back then was much more powerful on Smolder. Smolder was much more of a threshold champion back then. But now, I really just want to see if Sejed is able to throw down on the spin, because it's 2 games in a row now where we have felt like the compositional play would be to stay back and support the solo laners. Even on Varus, he could have gone poke Varus instead of getting Dove, and now he could have gone Jhin with so much dive, and instead decides to just get in there with the team on the Vayne. Definitely a very risky pick.
I mean, the big question to me is, will he be able to survive the dive, right? Or maybe he's thinking, my team will be so aggressive, they will be putting them on the back foot.
He can just chase in with
Exactly,
Night
maybe
Hunter.
just chase in. But I just feel like Rakan Galio is going to be so strong against the composition that DSG have. When you're looking at 4 melee champs and then a Vayne who's relatively short range, it is so easy to land these multi-man charms. And we'll see how Calmy can handle this 1v1 in mid lane. Because yes, Smolder does have scaling, but a lot of the power has been moved more towards the early game over the patches. You know, you talked about the nerf to the 225, how powerful that is.
Yeah.
And the execute threshold no longer scales, has been like that for a very long time. So the scaling is a lot weaker, but the early game is a lot stronger. And the problem with this matchup is not only can you get bullied because it's range versus melee, but you can't avoid getting stacked on. So you can really accelerate in this matchup, because every time you step forward, you're going to get queued by the Smolder. You're giving over free stacks, and when you hit a fast 25, it really accelerates you to 125, and that really accelerates you to the 225. So we'll see how Darkwings can do.
Looking forward to seeing if he can bully this lane, because we definitely have this archetype of Darkwings that he's this scaling mage player who's just kind of trying to survive while maybe Hombach does something crazy with Hoovy and they've been playing around bot side. But now they have an opportunity to maybe have Darkwings get babysat a little bit if he's able to put the Yone down. Because if they can keep Yone out of this game, the win condition's really narrow for DSG.
I mean, Calmy still has his potion, but he is getting very low here already. Of course, he has teleport. Really, he's trying to survive to be able to get this wave. You definitely want to get the cannon. You want to be able to have a reasonable buy.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is the problem, is it's just kind of all about survival. And, you know, Darkwings is going to be able to start working on this first plate. And as soon as you go for any of these range minions, you will be eating a free Q, a free W.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough about this matchup.
It's the stacking. I doubt Calmy will die, famous last words, but with second win, Dorn Shield, and Fleet, not to mention the short lane for frequent recalls, I feel like he's going to be able to survive, and it's just about maximizing the CS.
Yep, but he does pop the potion now, finally, and Darkwings up to 13 stacks, but is going to go with the Soul Unbound and try to get a trade back, and this is really your only option, is to try to look for these aggressive trades, try to chunk them out, but Calmy in some trouble. And this is the updated year-long series. The first game, the first series that they had was 2-1 to DSG. The second series was 3-2 to Sentinels. And then, of course, they are 1-1 here in this series, bringing the total game score to 5-5. So just dead even between these two teams as Kryra comes through. And we'll be able to delay the recall there of Darkwings, but they're going to look for a potential little engage as Hombach goes forward. But down comes the Galio now, and Kryra's just going to flash on a Darkwings. In comes Calmy with the Soul Unbound, looking to get some damage down. Impact faster on the roam, flashes forward with the Justice Punch. There is the taunt. Castle flashing in as well. Hombach falls for first blood. Kryra's getting some healing down. Impact has no damage. DSG out to a 2-0 lead.
It's been a while since we've seen a first crab flip a game, but we may have just seen it again. Full stack Conqueror on the Xin. Triumph proc after another, stays alive, and the bot lane's all in at the same time.
So Jed procs another Silver Bolts there. Rahel incredibly low, even through the barrier. Had the condemn into the wall, had the lethal tempo stack. He flashes in. Great flash back from Rahel, or he would have been dead to rights. Lions wanted the kill. But Rahel equal to the task. Still, good job by DSG being able to get this aggressive move, because they were actually down quite a bit in farm, especially once this wave is gone.
There's no barrier,
They're going to try to look for it. He has the angle for the condemn. He gets him into the wall. He gets the kill in the 2v2, and now Hui's in a lot of trouble as well. It's a double for the Vayne. You lose to Alistar. Who cares? 4-1 in a 1K lead at 4 minutes for DSG.
Sajed Vayne gets the 2v2 double kill. What I love about these teams in DSG is they are not afraid to hands check. Look at the gusto of this play here. Flashing in for the Q he threw out of Darkwings, and that's after Calmy had already taken the aggressive trade, and then, even though Impact is first, they just continue fighting. Nobody abandons the fight. Calmy stays close, Castle burns him down, Triumph proc comes in from Kryra, gets the passive heal from the Xin, and ends up picking up the second kill.
We're back to live. Kryra here fighting again. Smolder's going to get knocked up and might just be getting knocked down. Kryra grabs a kill as Darkwings will fall. He escaped in the last fight, won't be so lucky this time, and now the wheels feel like they're starting to fall off for Sentinels.
They really do, losing control of both rivers. Kryra making a move over. Got to be careful not to get too aggressive, but they're all sitting at full health in the bot lane.
I mean, one of the craziest parts about this 2v2 kill is you're now down 4 sums on the side of Sentinels, and you didn't even get a single summoner off of the Vayne here as they're going to re-engage here on a Huhi, and Huhi is incredibly low, does get back to the tower. In comes Hombach, but they know they cannot really look for an aggressive play, and the wave is being frozen on them, so even though they are down quite a bit of CS, Sajed is trying to hold this wave and make things very difficult for Rahel, because if you overstep, there's Hex Flash available on Lions, so we'll call that half a summoner, and you have both available on the Vayne.
And still in level 6 for Rahel, so doesn't have a good way of avoiding Sajed. Kind of faking that he's recalled right now, actually. He's been in the bush for about 10 seconds as DSG continue to punish the soul lanes.
Calmy looking for this all in here. Darkwings has no flash. The Soul Unbound comes through. The knockup does connect. Mom comes down for a heal, but Kryra looking for a play on the bot side as Calmy claims a solo bolo in the counter matchup in the mid lane.
And this is why DSG picked Yone blind. because they were confident that whatever Darkwings throws against him, he's going to be able to perform. Got a huge amount of help from that top scuttle fight, but knowing that Darkwings was down Flash and he hit level 6, he could just all in. Not to mention, they have full information because of how aggressive Cryer has been playing. He's been fully evading the bot jungle. There was no threat of Hanbok ganking there on Vi, and they are really playing this game aggressively.
Yeah, and as much as things can go well for Smolder, if you get ahead, you're constantly chunking out this Yone, putting him back to base over and over and over. When you get this gold injection, you have early attack speed, early Vamp Scepter, all of a sudden you can't really punish him anymore, and then he's the one threatening you for all-ins, just like he did there. His Lion's going to be going up to the top side. He has the Hex Flash. I don't even think he needs to use it. Impact's just going to get comboed. He's going to tank it up. Castle is going to be able to grab the kill. Style points with the equalizer. Call Me will get shut down by Hanbok in mid lane, though. So Sentinels showing some signs of life. Do get one back.
Yeah, the kill will end up going over to the Vi, so he's going to need to snowball a little bit. Would have loved to have that go over to Darkwings. Crazy by lines there. He could have killed with the auto, but instead wanted to give the kill to the Rumble with the ultimate. I think the cooldown's low enough that'll end up being effective for DSG.
They're behind him.
Darkwings has made a nice roam here. They can send 4 pretty easily.
Yeah, he is not 6, though, so the engage not that powerful. And it's going to be easily stopped there by Lions. You shall not pass.
Look at this early game, though. 5 gold leads. Whoop! For the team. Watching the dive one more time. Hanbok in fog until this moment, and by that point it's too late with no flash on the Yone. So a really nice executed lane gank there to get the shutdown gold onto the Yone.
Yep, good kill there on a Darkwings, and a bit frustrated, obviously. Darkwings didn't get the kill, excuse me.
Yeah.
The fact that Vi picked it up, you can see he's a little bit frustrated, even though they were able to knock down Call Me. Knows he's not in the easiest spot, and when you fall behind in these kind of matchups, Yone just constantly is going to threaten the all-in, and you feel scared to walk up for really much of anything. So we'll see if Darkwings can kind of stabilize and just continue trying to scale.
Yeah, sitting at 66 stacks, this lane is definitely not going how he wanted it to. You want to be able to hit those breakpoints really early, start poking, stacking on him for free. Now he's just fearful of the all-in at every single moment.
He really is. So Jed, slight gold lead off of the back of those 2 kills that he was able to grab early on. But they're not out of the woods just yet. Of course, it is very difficult to play Vayne against teams with a lot of point-and-click CC. Yes, you have the ability to outplay, to pop the final hour, to go invis, and to try to outplay, but when you just get point-and-click Vi-ulted into a charm, into a taunt, there's sometimes not much you really can do. So we'll see how he's going to be able to start up these fights, and if his team can kind of create enough chaos where they're the ones engaging, and that gives them the freedom to fight. Yeah,
the weird thing is, though, they really do have to scale, right? Like the Smolder Yunara, they need a lot of items to end up being effective. And with this Vayne pick, as much as it felt weird, I'm thinking about how Yunara does get advantages on a lot of other carries. It's like when you're level 6 and you're in a 1v1, a lot of times you can just press R and you run the other guy down. I think if Vayne presses final hour at the same time, it's a wash, and maybe even in favor of Vayne. So for the 1v1 and for certain parts of the laning phase, Sajed's going to be quite comfortable, even if the team comp and the team fights seem hard to play.
Yeah, we'll see if he's going to be able to make that happen. Famously, one of the weaknesses of Vayne is always the wave clear. You know, you have very little wave clear, so that can be difficult. But Kryra is here and has not been spotted. Hanbok hanging around as well, so potential for a 3v3 to break out. Both supports are now level 6. And Hanbok has his ulti back up and available, going to face check Kryra, but they could actually look to turn on him. Kryra going to go for the engage, flash forward there from Lions, but the TP is coming in immediately from Call Me. Smolder cannot stop that TP, so here's the Yone, and Sentinels are in trouble. Sajed gets another kill. The second one goes to Kryra, and DSG are up 9-2 at 10 minutes into the game.
DSG is just completely running this game, even though it looked like maybe they were going to be able to catch the Xin. That TP was instant, and the Sundered Sky from Kryra, the MasterCard Power Spike, crucial in that fight. But everything for them is dominant. The fact that they have that bot turret just consistently pushed in whenever they need to with the Vayne Alistair bot lane tells us enough about how this game is going.
Absolutely does, and here it is one more time, and just instant commitment on that engage as soon as Kryra was revealed.
Yeah, so Puhi and Rahel completely caught out. No way Smolder. I mean, Smolder's probably pretty happy in the short term. He's like, ooh, the Yone's gone. I can get a couple minions
My bot lane died. Great.
Oh, no. Now it's over. Now we lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Smolder can't do anything to stop the TP, so that's why Calmy was able to react so quickly. When you think about a lot of the meta mid laners, most of them can stop TP in some way. You know, Victor can ult and cancel your channel. You can get Shockwave. You can get Gravity Field. You can get Scattered. You can get, you know, a Zero ulted. There's like a million ways to stop it. Smolder has none. So all Smolder can do is just hit the person who is TPing in his face, as Lions will be sent backing up here. But still, Sentinels does have really strong scaling. The question is, can you realistically get there? I mean, you're already down almost 4K, and it's not even 12 minutes. They
really are not. And Kryra plus Sajed can run the game. On top of that, Castle has just one lane the whole series. It's been completely one-sided in the top lane. So they'll have easy push top lane whenever they need to. Calmy can push and roam. I think they need to make sure they don't overplay and know they have, like DSG needs to just realize they have a big lead, stack the dragons and make sure that they are eventually accelerating the game in an organic fashion, since you could say like maybe there's too many melees, maybe it'll be hard for them to close if they let the game go too late, but right now they're in a perfect position.
Yep, they're in a great spot here as Calmy can't quite find Dark Wings with the knock-up, so we'll just have to settle for that dragon that they're grabbing. Lions laying a trap there for who he is. Sajed potentially going to look for the engage, has already completed his Kraken's Lair and is going to be going for a pretty high damage build here on the Vayne. Not looking for an early Bork or anything like that. You know, this build is really punishing, and obviously good synergy with the Silver Bolts. Kraken is, you know, every third hit as well, so it's kind of just doubling down on the extra damage.
Yeah, this is another amazing series that Sajed is having against Sentinels. His breakout series in the LCS was really the first one he played, which was against Sentinels, having clutch team fights. And I just feel like pulling out the Vayne in this situation, getting the 2v2 kill, and now having so much of the game revolve around bot lane is just an incredible performance.
Yep, and back to the same kind of fight we had before. Hambach uses both charges of sweepers, finds out that the second brush was warded, but Kryra was in the area covering for him as well. Castle up 1.5K in the top lane. I mean, he got some kills off of that early play when he roamed down, so that obviously made things a lot harder. But as you said earlier, he has just been dominating, impacting the 1v1. That has been the biggest gap, it feels like, in the lanes by far. And Castle continuing that, it's just going to be tough. I mean, every fight, you either just engage on Darkwings or Rahel, Equalizer is on your head, Yone ult is coming through. You know, it's going to be a lot of chaos for these AD carries.
Yeah, and I'd say 4 minutes and 30 seconds into this game, DSG won these advantages, and it's been a lot of execution since then, because the top lane skirmish, they get a double kill in a 3v3, that gets all of the solo laners ahead. A minute later, their bot lane gets a 2v2 double kill. So they won the whole map by that point, and then it makes Sentinels have to make these funny plays to try and get back in it.
Calmy gonna pop the ulti, just try to run away, but it's blocked there by Hambach, and that is more than enough CC to knock down the Yone. Rahel not the one to grab the kill, though. Hambach does claim another one for himself.
Yeah, Hambach, you need to make sure you secure the kill. The team needs to secure the kill, but they're getting a little bit unlucky with these kills going directly over to their Vi. I'd say DSG was a little bit sloppy in parts of game 2, so Sentinels is in a similar situation here where they just have to be really creative, make the game as hard as possible, and really just pick off these solo laners. I think it's a little bit difficult to try to do any type of 5v5 team fighting, but Hambach has found 2 picks so far and needs to try and find more miracles.
Has to keep looking for him. The difficulty is always that Kryra has been doing a good job tracking him too, right? You know, Hambach was constantly in those bot lane brushes. Kryra always seemed to be there behind him. And you know that you need to look for these aggressive plays, but if the jungler is there, you're probably going to lose the even numbers fight. So we'll see if they can find that perfect engage, that perfect CC to try to turn things around as GSG do move up towards that top side to grab themselves a Herald.
Should be an uncontested Herald. Now it's just about making sure they don't get punished on the other side of the map. You can see Hambach again looking for Calmy. Sneakily jumps over the wall. Doesn't look like he's on vision.
Yeah, and he is going to be getting the bad news here, but Darkwings has pushed back so far. I don't know if he's even going to be able to need to use his flash here, but now in comes Hui and Rahel. Lions here to cover. Flash force there by Calmy, but that is 4 members bot for an HP disadvantage on the trade, and a trade of flashes.
And this gives such a long turn for DSG. What are they going to do with it? Vayne free hitting the turret in mid. Kryra looking to invade jungle camps, and Lions just wasting even more time.
That's going to be the first tower of the game, going over to the Vayne, who's going to be able to pick up all of this gold as Kryra even takes away the Gromp. Sentinel sent so many members down there. Calmy's back to full HP. Well, Darkwings has to go back to base. And look at that gold injection there for Sajed, who was already ahead. They're trying to look for more now on this bot side. TP's coming in. Impact is way behind them, but it doesn't even matter because all of DSG is here, and they're just looking to engage on the other side. Impact gets pinged out. He's got to run for it. He could actually just be dead. They know he's there.
They suspect he's there.
There's
no one's
a lot
gonna
of
check.
pings.
They're not going to waste their push to go chase him, and they're still trying to keep the pressure up in this bottom lane. Kryra just marking the Vi.
LYON just flashes over the engage. In comes the equalizer, but now comes the hero's entrance. Calmy trying to chase Hanbok on the side, but it's Rahel who's in more trouble as Kryra goes in for the engage. Calmy is back. The knockup is there. Rahel flashes. He heals. He barely survives for now. Impact gonna have to flash back here as well. Sajed gonna pop the final hour, tumbling forward, looking for more. Can he find the angle to try to get Rahel? He knocks him down. Even with the taunt from Impact, can't keep their AD carry safe.
Objective bounties are on because this game is beginning to get out of hand. An extremely long and drawn-out play in the bottom lane here is likely going to result in most of the bot lane turret. Impact probably going to clear this out, and now everyone on DSG redeploys. They are absolutely fearless, Azael, with the way they attack.
You gotta love it. I mean, they are confident. They know that they are playing from a position of power, and they're just gonna force the hand of their opponents at every turn. Kryra is just flying in on every single fight. I mean, Lions is flashing over the engage to engage himself. Darkwings has TP down to bot, but
Smolder flank?
There's a responding TP. I mean, Sentinels, you gotta give them credit. They're still trying to look for plays, but DSG are ready and feel like they have numbers at every turn.
Yeah, now that the TP has been matched by Castle, DSG just will naturally start this Drake. They can probably even babysit this wave and pick up the bottom turret. No way Sentinels is matching this play. You can see Unara Vi on the top side of the jungle, just trying to scrounge up whatever farm they can. But for a game 1 and 2 that were very close, this game 3 is definitely the most one-sided.
Yeah, it is extremely one-sided. And even though they do have a good dive, you know, to try to maybe punish this missing flash from Sajed, their follow-up is tough. You know, when so many of these members are so far behind, you don't necessarily have the damage to just burst them down without the AD carries hitting, and the chance of the AD carries being able to get past these super fed members on DSG are very, very low to punish the Jed.
Yeah, Sentinels has got to be very disappointed with how this game has played out so far. The Smolder falling so far behind has really unlocked the Yone, and then the biggest thing is just this Vayne being 4-0 has to kind of blow. It's blowing my mind a little bit that Rahel is 2.2 thousand gold down against him.
Kryra hid that whole time. They're going to try to look for a setup on the dive, but now he reveals himself. The equalizer was used defensively, and Impact pushed back. That was a good job by Kryra. He was just kind of dancing in and out of the brush as who he stepped forward to hide that he was around. Doesn't end up amounting to too much, but still a nice play. I feel like Kryra has just been everywhere he needs to be this entire game.
He really has, taking the end of that Mundo game as Sajed has barrier, but
no flash. He does have a great condemn back onto Huhi, but it just doesn't even matter. Exhausted, charmed, knocked down here. Hanbok will survive the final turret shot. But again, Hanbok is the one that gets the kill every single time. Has to be frustrating for the AD carries, but in a play like that, you can't blame him. You have to secure the kill.
If he tries to give the kill to someone else, he dies, and you just backfired your 3-man gank. But finds another pick. Their time is running out, though. 3 minutes and 30 seconds until the Soul is going to be coming up. Baron being up now, so if one of those plays goes sideways, Yone Vayne will kill the Baron very quickly. Still a big fan of the way Hanbok's played this whole series. I feel like he's found ways to be effective in all 3 of these games. It's just the early laning went so sideways this time for Sentinels.
Yeah, I feel like both junglers have actually played quite well throughout the series. So it has been fun to watch 2 of the new junglers this year in the LCS doing well. Kryra, obviously, you know, a young NA jungler here, and has been doing well. I mean, the team was built around him. You know, when I actually talked to DSG, that was the intended starter, of course, as they're going to look for an engage here onto Hanbok, who is getting focused down. The Crescent Guard is popped, and Calmy claims the kill. The TP comes in, and that means there is no recourse for Sentinels. They just have to accept jungler is gone. Yone grabs another kill.
When you're strong and you know it, you just fight. That was a 2v3 that they just flew into, and now they start up the Baron knowing other team has no smite. But they're not showing. They are on a ward as well. It just seems so impossible to move into the space.
Yeah, I mean, Smolder's bot, they're not even going to try. Unara's mid, Smolder's bot, you have no damage, and Impact maybe can't even push out the top wave. Is going to be tough. It's going to be pushed back here by Lions, and now the ulti has to be popped defensively there from Hu. He's trying to keep his top laner alive. Can't even do it. They kill your top laner who's pushing out the lane as they're taking Baron. It's a 6K gold lead at 21 minutes. And DSG have just been getting better every single game.
Yeah, that was just rude what DSG did. That whole sequence was just rude. You think you have your Krugs, you don't have your Krugs. We're taking Baron, you think you can get waves? Those are our waves. They are distributing their plentiful resources very efficiently and snowballing this game well.
They really are. And remember, if you don't have your tickets yet, they're still available for tomorrow's games. The tailgate is going to be happening as well. Come get some free boba, some free coffee, hang out with the squads, buy yourself some merch, and then watch some LCS as Sentinels maybe their last hurrah here. Double TP towards top. It's just a Baron recall. Castle's already gone.
First game up tomorrow, Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. We need to see if the best scrim team in the LCS cannot look completely average on stage. We need to see if they can pull it off, or if FlyQuest can reverse their trajectory from the end of the lock-in tournament where they lost consecutively to Blabber, and Inspired. So really interesting first matchup tomorrow, as DSG is really just dotting their I's, crossing their T's, and trying to end this series.
Yep, Castle pushing back Hombach, and Impact chunked low as well. And yeah, it looks like DSG, they are fully in the driver's seat on this one. 30 seconds until a soul spawn. This would be, a 23-minute soul, incredibly fast. And it's hard to imagine a world in which Sentinels can even get over there to try to contest. If you're looking across the board at the item completions, it's so much better over on the side of DSG. Darkwings has knocked down a couple of towers, has got some objective bounties. On the bot side, he got one on the top side as well. So getting some gold there for the Smolder. And we'll see if he has his second item completion off the back of that. But even if he does, I just don't know. I mean, Call Me, Kryra, Castle, and Sejed are all super farmed.
Yeah, and we haven't even really had an opportunity to see a team fight. I'd say every fight in this game has just been a skirmish. Part of that is because the lanes have been so well played, because Kryra has just been really effective at getting deep vision, and they're finding so many opportunities to play around this Yone, right? It's tricky when everyone's having these amazing games. Their kill participations are going to look low, like, oh, wow, this 7 kill participation of 12 jungler. Couldn't you be more involved? But it's just because so many players are just winning 2v2s and 1v1s on different parts of the map.
That's absolutely true. And so there's definitely a first world problem for the jungler. I just can't get enough KP because all my soul laners keep solo killing them.
My stats are too low.
It's so problematic. As DSG have the Baron, have the soul, it was uncontested as expected. And Sentinel's just going to pray that the game can get delayed and delayed and delayed, and that maybe this double 80 carry comp can carry through in the super late game. But at this point, you're hoping that this game can go 20, 30 more minutes to really kind of reach the promised land. And even then,
I mean, it was
hard to know if it's going to be enough.
It was such a fast soul, it would set us up for a sub 30-minute Elder, if that's what DSG wants. So they've done a very good job accelerating this game, not letting the Dragons sit around for too long. It does seem like, though, that with Baron buff subsiding and with Sentinels kind of accepting their fate here, now Smolder can finally farm. He's at 235, so he got into that 225 threshold. They can maybe hope to contest Elder, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely try. I think it's worth a shot, and at least the Baron is kind of split on the spawn timer from the Elder, but they could delay the Baron if they want to just try to get both at once. And if you get both at once, I don't think that they really can do anything to wait for their ore to fight you. So we'll see if DSG does look to do that. And Rahel just trying to get towards that Infinity Edge. When he has 3 items with the IE, he will have a lot of damage. And again, if you can find that perfect engage, maybe you can try to one-shot this Vayne or one-shot the Yone with some CC and turn it around in that way. But the problem is there's just so many threats, right? Even if you kill off one, you probably commit everything to do it, and then you're probably getting destroyed by the Xin and the Rumble that you're trying to fight through.
Very likely. So normally I'd say try and pick off Call Me, because that's the thing that's been the most effective in this game. But I remember the last time they tried to do that, it was a 2v4. And they were completely effective at repelling it. So 7,000 gold lead with the Chemtech Soul. How can we caster curse this moment a little bit more? Because this really does feel like it's done and dusted for DSG.
Yeah, I mean,
but they haven't even broken an inhibitor yet, and they're all short range. So there's a way you mess this up. If they walk in...
5-man quickness from Huhi into the 5-man Galio taunt.
Yunara does a lot of AoE. Smolder can as well.
It's basically that. It's the Dream Engage, right?
Yeah.
If you don't see him and you clump up and you get hit by everything, you definitely can still die. You definitely can still get burst down. The front line, though, getting very tanky. Xin has that Guardian Angel, and you do have Castle, who is very close to his Zonias and still has that Seekers active. You have a shield bow for Calmy.
Yep.
You have the experimental hex plate that's going to make you a little bit tankier on the Vayne, plus the barrier, plus the locket. So there's a lot of tools to not get one shot here, and it's going to be DSG looking to start these fights off. As Calmy just goes over the wall for a little bit of a chunk and just snaps back as the CC was coming in.
Wanted to poke his head through, see what's over there. Oh, your whole team? Okay, I'm going to back up. It's fine. And even though this game is one-sided, these teams are still incredibly close. We know they've played each other 11 times this year. Current record is 5-5. If DSG closes this out, it moves to 6-5. They played each other in the playoffs. That was the difference between essentially the 3rd place finish and the 6th place finish, as they got knocked down to the lower bracket after that defeat. But if DSG wins that game, it's likely they would have been the 3rd seed if they win game 4 or 5 of that playoff series during lock-in. So really looking forward to seeing how these teams develop throughout the split, because when I'm looking at the power rankings, I do still see C9, LYON as those top teams, with probably TL based off of how dominant they are in scrims. But then I feel like everyone else can actually beat everyone else. So really looking forward to seeing those matchups throughout the rest of the split.
Yeah, me too. And honestly, even TL obviously looked very beatable in the regular season. Yes, they have a lot of talent. They have an incredible amount of talent on the team. You know, every pro player you talk to will still tell you, even while they are losing on stage, that this team should not be underestimated, that they could easily win the split, that they are really, really strong. But until you do it on stage, you kind of have to have a healthy amount of doubt. And
Sentinels beat them during lock-in 2-1. Arguably 2-0, because the Guardian Aatrox game doesn't really count. It counts in the standings, but not in our hearts.
Yep. Sentinels with some drafting troubles at times.
Yes, they've had those.
They did have the accidental Vayne, so it's funny that they're getting the Vayne coming through against them. That is clearly intentional
on purpose.
And clearly very effective. And now with that Baron buff, they're pushing 4 members top. The Equalizers are going to get dropped just to try to push them back here. Mum comes out over the top and is going to chunk them down. Could look for potential engage, as Lions is getting pretty low. Had to pop the Unbreakable. He's down about 30% HP, so likely has to reset.
Yeah, no ult does have his summoner heal, so he's hoping if he finds the right engage. But we know the only thing that can go wrong here is they lose a big team fight and give up all their bounties. I think they're just hoping to break these inhibitor turrets down so that with the Elder they can maybe finish.
TP coming back in here from Castle, who does have that Zonia's completed. Look at the damage on the Hawk. He is just getting cooked. And now on the side, you can see Calmy pushing Darkwing's back. It looks like that top lane inhibitor tower is pretty much guaranteed to fall in this wave. Hombox going back to base to heal up, as is Darkwing. So they're going to have to give up the double inhibitor as Calmy's coming in through that mid lane, looking to knock that one down as well. And will they go for the final engage here? Kryra goes forward with the Crescent Guard. Everyone on Darkwings this time is just running for the hills here. Darkwing's incredibly low, does get back into the fountain. Sentinels were hurting there. They do survive, but it's double inhibit. The Nexus Tower's under fire.
Kryra has burned his ultimate, does have GA. They can't break any of the Nexus turrets, but I think mission accomplished here. Get the double inhib down, potentially reset, but if they can win the game with a re-engage, I'm sure they'd take it.
Like they will just back off, go for the recalls. TP coming back in here from Calmy as he spends up his gold once again.
Yeah, right now, if they just start the Elder, the super minions as well as the Elder will sync up fairly well, so Sentinels needs to use this window to try and find a fight.
Oh, Kryra's fighting on the side, but could he be in trouble? Lions coming in for an engage over the top, but there again is the Equalizer in the back line. Hombok does fall and is going to try to stand and fight. Calmy going to the back line looking for more. He gets a kill in the middle of 4. Woo! And now Sajet is unleashed. It is the final hour for Sentinels. DSG pushing down mid lane. Kryra fighting here against Darkwings, and he's going to win that fight as well. The Crescent Guard cuts him in half. He's a Dragon Slayer as DSG march on the Nexus, claim the game win, claim the series win, and take down Sentinels in a dominant game number 3.
Really great performance by DSG to close out the day. Kryra deathless, Castle deathless. They kind of won this game in 4 minutes, and then the next 26 minutes was putting the icing on that cake. But they got to feel good about the way they started the spring split.